the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Sloppy. Mu Nigio just looked at Tangmaro. If a person's mental quality was not strong enough, he would have been exposed by her staring at him like this. Fortunately, as a scumbag with no bottom line, he had a strong ability to accept things mentally, and his acting ability was at the level of movie emperor, so Mu Nigio didn't find anything wrong. About a minute passed, and Mu Nigio's little head leaned back into Tangmaro's arms again. He sighed slightly and said, "Actually, if you can be nice to my sister, and she likes you, I don't mind." Tangmaro's heartbeat accelerated. For such a thing, any normal man would not refuse the first reaction. However, he did not respond immediately, but was thinking about the credibility of Mu Nigio's words. "Asshole, you really have ideas about my sister." Who knew that? Before he could say anything, Mu Nigio suddenly stood up from him and slapped the soft sofa pillow. Tangmaro was quick-eyed and quick-handed and hurriedly grabbed the sofa pillow in his hand. Then he hurriedly said, "Stop, stop, stop." Mu Nigio, whose hand was grabbed, pulled for a while, but she was not as strong as Tangmaro, so she stared at him angrily and said, "What else do you want to say?" "No, sister, I don't think I said anything," Tangmaro said in a daze. Unless Mu Nigio can hear what he thinks in his heart, otherwise, how can she suddenly go crazy? "This is outrageous. You didn't say anything, but you hesitated," Mu Nigio said, and then pulled again. Tangmaro, that painful guy, hurriedly argued, "No, listen to me first. If it's a normal man, how can he not be moved when hearing this proposal? Then do you really want to attack my sister?" While speaking, Mu Nigio's body was suddenly floating with wind. Fuck you, Tangmaro thought that he was careless. But if he let her do it at this time, he would definitely not be relieved if he didn't get beaten severely. But if he didn't fight back after being beaten, would it mean that he was in the wrong? Even if it is true, it is true. Can you give me a chance to explain? Therefore, the best way at the moment is to talk nonsense. First, Mu Nigio must be fooled, at least to get through this matter first. What else do you want to say? Tangmaro, you bastard, I don't mind what happened between you and Tutu, and I don't care about what happened between you and Jiang Shaoxu, but don't you think you have gone too far? Mu Nigio was really angry. She had been tolerant enough, but in return, this is what she got. How could she tolerate it? No, this kind of thing. Any man would be moved. But I promise that I will never have anything with your sister. Besides, I just heard that you have a sister, but I don't know her. Knowing that he was in the wrong, he really had no other way except to appease Mu Nigio's emotions. But don't worry, I swear that I will not have any relationship beyond friendship with anyone with the surname Mu. You think? Seeing that Mu Nigio was about to go crazy again, Tangmaro hurriedly added. Seeing that she was no longer so angry, Tangmaro breathed a sigh of relief and continued to speak sweetly. However, during the break, Mu Nigio still refused to let him in and told him sternly that if he really did anything to her sister, he would be castrated. Not to mention, being stared at by Mu Nigio so fiercely, he really felt a little weak. Others might not be able to hurt him, but the person next to him? That's hard to say. Sure enough, although sisters are fragrant, this can only be thought about slightly in the heart. The next day, because he still needed to go back to Yuxu town, he left early in the morning. Fortunately, Mu Nigio didn't say anything cold or indifferent after last night, so Tangmaro left with peace of mind. Today's Yuxu town has been built quite perfectly, and everything is developing in a good direction. But everyone knows that the current Tang family is still useless. Without the income of a resource land, it is difficult to develop into a big one. Therefore, what is most needed now is the income of a place. It can be said that he came back this time just to go to the East China Sea Magic Association with Mu Ningxu. Because of this, he didn't even interfere when Emo Fan and Zhao Manan went to Yantei to make a fortune. Although Emofan agreed to work for him, and Zaomanan was his younger brother, before he wanted to seize the family property, he couldn't stop them from making a fortune. After all, the Tang family couldn't afford to support 2 high-level mages who consumed too many resources, so they're going to open up Wasteland would save a lot of money for his family. Moreover, Tang Mao also arranged for the 2 of them to find the totem that Zheng Xiao requested. However, although he was here, Muningsu still had the final say in matters here. After all, he only had a vague understanding of these things, and for Tang Mao, it was not inappropriate to just take on a name and be a scapegoat. If it was someone else, he might not trust him and would do everything himself, but if his own woman didn't trust him, there wouldn't be many people he could trust in this world. In the woods beside a clear lake in the back mountain. TSK, this little demon is really good, Tang Mao said with admiration, looking at Yushishi in the lake. Yushishi seemed to be completely unaware. At this moment, she was playing with her hair. This woman's skin was flawless and white as jade. She was indeed a demon. The most important thing was that, although her arms and legs were extremely slender, the weapon was so amazing and lethal. Gilulu, this useless swallowing sound, although not very loud, immediately attracted Yushishi's attention. The moment she turned around, her eyes were still a little confused at first, but when she found Tang Mao, who did not hide himself at all, her eyes were suddenly filled with astonishment and shame. The next moment, a group of moths suddenly appeared in front of her, as if they wanted to form a barrier. But at this moment, a wisp of green flame in Tang Mao's hand swish ignited. The moment the flames lit up, the moths were so scared that they dared not approach her and retreated one after another. This kind of shameless person is the first time that Master Yu has encountered such a shameless person in his life. You Tang Mao, don't go too far. Yushishi hid in the lake and said angrily. What do you mean? What did I do? Tang Mao came to the lake, as if nothing had happened, looked at Yushishi and said. Since he has been discovered, there is naturally nothing to hide anymore. You know, this piece of land belongs to the Tang family. Chapter 427 Rescue. Yushishi, this little devil, knew that Tang Mao had bad intentions since she settled here. However, it was beyond her expectation that he would show his shamelessness so openly. Moreover, she could see that, although Muningsu was the manager here, she had no deterrent power at all in front of this bastard. In addition, she had been here for more than a day or two, and she knew a little about the scumbag. Just when she was about to accept her fate, Tang Mao turned around and left. Just like that. Yushishi was a little puzzled. Wasn't it the best time to break the defense? Why did he leave just like that? But then, she immediately shook her head. Damn, at this time, it's good for this bastard to leave. What else was she looking forward to? Tang Mao came here just to take a casual look, and there was no special intention. He was just bored. Although this little devil was very tempting, he always insisted on mutual consent. He was totally out of his league to force things. Of course, it's okay to take advantage. After all, do nothing, just conquer with charm. This situation is usually rare, so he doesn't believe it. In fact, after all, it's because he talked about depth with Muningsu not long ago. Now he is powerless. After leaving here, he continued to go deeper. He came here just to practice quietly. Who knew that he would meet Yushishi, the little fairy, showing her fullness halfway? Too much. He didn't stay at home. Wasn't it because Muningsu was wandering around all day and couldn't practice well? It must be said that Muningsu is full of attraction now. Especially when she is commanding everyone like a queen here. There is always a feeling of boiling evil fire. He has poor self-control, so in order to protect his kidneys, he can only come to the mountains to practice. Moreover, it has been so long since the establishment of the clan, and he hasn't taken a good look at his territory. It was just when he divided the land with Muningsu, he took a general look. After a circle, Tang Mao came to the place where Bazaar was. The place chosen by this stupid turtle to live, I have to say, is really not bad. Compared with the place chosen by the black snake, it is really several times stronger. At present Yuxu town has just been established, and the Tang family is still just a clan, so they can only do the work of guarding the gate. After arriving here, it told itself that it seemed that Zhao Manan and his men were in danger. Zaomanan's magic energy consumption was extremely high. Baksha also asked if he wanted to go to support them, although Tangmao was sure that they would not die. Since Baksha said so, he could only go and see. Moreover, in the dispute between the aristocratic families, there must always be a master online. Although he himself is a top strongman of the younger generation, he can't do this kind of thing by himself as a boss, right? If he does everything by himself, then what is the use of younger brothers? So he could only buy a plane ticket and go to Yantai. The plane flew north along the east coastline and arrived at Yantai Penglai International Airport after about an hour. The place Tangmao was going to was Kunaiu Mountain, which has always been a famous mountain in Yantai. To the southwest of Kunaiu Mountain was the outer Kunaiu Mountain where demons lived. The inner Kunaiu Mountain belonged to the Anji, a relatively well-preserved natural ecological zone protected by the government and the Magic Association. There were many rare plants and medicinal trees growing there. Due to the climate, only the medicines from the inner Kunaiu Mountain could be used as some special potions, such as the famous bone repairing bottle, which was produced in the inner Kunaiu Mountain in Yantai. Soon, Tangmao came to a long wooden suspension bridge connecting the inner Kunaiu Mountain and the outer Kunaiu Mountain, but now the military was guarding this end of the suspension bridge. There were nearly 1,000 hunting mages gathered here. Although they were generally mid-level, there were also many high-level mages, and they were also clamoring and asking why they were not allowed to enter. Of course, after Ni Lengshan, the military magician, told the truth, everyone lost their temper. Who would have thought that the opportunity to make money here was actually a trap set by the demons? Question mark? After suppressing everyone's emotions, Ni Lengshan began to ask for help. There was no way. Their military magicians were not enough to deal with these mountain people, and many of the hunters here were very powerful, so Ni Lengshan had to resort to this last resort. Although there were still many hunters who retreated after hearing that it was a group of war general level demons, there were naturally some who rose to the challenge. After a round of voluntary registration, there were more than 3,000 hunters, and only more than 300 people were willing to challenge the mountain people. Fortunately, they were all elites and could temporarily solve the urgent problem. After the team was selected, everyone started to set off. Tangmao was naturally mixed in. The leader he followed was a very plump girl Emofan and Zaomanan. The two dogs were blessed with great fortunes and could not die easily. With the girl around, the safety of the two was naturally not that important. Moreover, as long as he eradicates the mountain people in large numbers, all problems will be solved. Moving forward here, what is most needed is not output, but a sound mage. Because, when entering the depths, everyone was shocked when they saw the dense tall grass like the ocean. At this moment, they also understood why the leader needed a sound mage, because strong strength could not solve too many problems. The most important thing was how to pull out the mountain people in such a dense sea of grass. Although all the sound mages nearby were mobilized, there were only 7 of them. But it is better to have it than not, and when rescue is urgently needed, everyone divided the team and started to move forward. When they first came in, this girl named Cheonu was commanding quite well. But when she confidently assigned tasks and asked the team members to disperse, she was suddenly attacked. A taller mountain man jumped out from behind Cheonu, and the bronze fangs facing the sky stood out, making the mountain man even more terrifying and hideous. The bronze-toothed mountain man attacked very quickly, and the soldiers guarding Cheonu didn't react in time. His sharp claws fiercely grabbed the plump part. Just when Cheonu was trying to dodge, the claws that were tearing down suddenly stopped? Question mark? Several military mages nearby were also surprised and looked at the people around them in confusion. P.S. I went to the hospital these days, and there were some follow-up matters, so I had a tight time to write. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 428, Dealing with the Mountain Man. Thunderbolt, Blast. Just when everyone was wondering who had made the move, a thunderbolt fell from the sky. It was clearly just a mid-level thunderbolt, but its power seemed like high-level magic. The damage was extremely terrifying. The bronze-toothed mountain man was directly blasted to a crisp. Xiaonu hurriedly retreated and dodged. Although she was very scared, she had dealt with demons after all. She still had some reaction time. The other military mages also rushed over one after another after being stunned. They described their constellations and blasted out high-level magic. The bronze-toothed mountain man was already dizzy from the thunderbolt, and now he was bombarded by the military mages one after another, and he was even more stupid. At the same time, the rescue teams in other places were in tragedy. They fell into the mountain man's trick and were almost ambushed. Beep beep. The bronze-toothed mountain man was wounded by the bombing and roared in a hurry. Everyone be careful, a lot of mountain people are approaching. After Xiaonu was rescued, she didn't bother to see who saved her. After all, the current crisis has not been resolved. When the military mages were about to give it a fatal blow, a large number of mountain people suddenly rushed out. Seeing this, everyone had to choose to deal with these mountain people who rushed out first. For a while, lightning, fire, strong winds, all kinds of elemental magic exploded in this area. These mountain people are not weak, they are all at the level of generals. But what can a general level demon do when it encounters a team of high level mages? The most important thing is that Tang Mao is among them. Others can kill a few mountain people with a high level magic, but he can kill dozens of mountain people immediately with a mid level magic. One person is as good as a team. After the mountain man with bronze teeth escaped, the rest of the mountain men also turned around and ran away. At this time, Xiaonu finally had time to look at Tang Mao and asked in confusion, "You saved me just now?" A military magician said at this time, "Xiaonu, thanks to this little brother. He not only saved you just now, but also saved us. You know, there is an ambush of the mountain men at the commander level here. Moreover, they stepped into the ambush point set by the mountain men. If Tang Mao had not severely injured the commander level wounded and killed a large number of the mountain men at the general level, even if they found it, they would have suffered heavy losses in the end." Xiaonu said thank you, and then asked in confusion, "Why is your thunder magic so strong? Is it so strong?" Tang Mao shrugged and then said, "If I wasn't afraid of killing innocent people, my strength would be stronger than it is now." Xiaonu was a little unhappy when she heard this. She just felt that this man was also impure and wanted to pretend. It is already amazing to be able to make mid-level magic close to high level. This person actually said that he did not use his full strength. In her opinion, the other party just wanted to attract her attention. Not to mention Xiaonu, even the military magicians before felt that Tang Mao was a little pretentious. But after all, they were saved by others, and no one said anything in response. Tang Mao was a little helpless about their unnatural expressions. How come no one believes the truth these days? At the same time, there was a fairly empty area between the leaf layer of the Xiangu and purple linden tree and the ground, but at this moment, countless colorful-tailed demon birds were flying around. They seemed to be unable to tolerate the intrusion of the mountain man, and they actually launched a group attack to completely eliminate the mountain man. The human army also arrived here one after another following the gathering of dandelions. Many of the hunters who had entered here before also gathered here. The brutality and slaughter brought by the mountain people had completely angered all the hunters. Under the leadership of the government and the army, they also formed a fighting team. They must completely eliminate this group of mountain people, regain the dignity lost by these mountain people, and avenge those who died tragically. Although these colorful-tailed demon birds are helping them, anyone who is not a human in front of Tang Mao will die. Lightning, frost, fire, and wind elemental magics were cast one after another in his hands, although they were only the output of intermediate magic. However, the number of mountain people killed was comparable to that of the military magicians present. The Xiaonu and the team of military magicians who had expressed doubts about Tang Mao before opened their mouths one by one. To be honest, who would have thought that an intermediate magic could really exert the power of high-level magic? What kind of non-human is this? But at the moment, they didn't bother to ask anything. After all, although thousands of mountain people were killed or injured, there were still thousands of them, and there were even a few commander-level mountain people among them. Thunder explosion. Purple sky field. Just when Xiaonu was dealing with the general level mountain people, Tang Mao had already found the location of the commander level mountain people. Boom boom boom. If he was only dealing with a commander level mountain man, he didn't need to use all his firepower, but there were still hundreds of general level mountain people surrounding him, so Tang Mao threw out an absolute destructive thunder. Then, a huge thunderstorm exploded in this area. The hundreds of warrior level mountain men turned into ashes in an instant, and the commander level mountain men were also smashed to pieces in an instant. The people who were fighting were shocked by the bombing sound of the thunderstorm and looked over. The vitality of the command level is quite strong. Several soul level high level destruction magics may not leave any obvious injuries on them. Even if the bronze-toothed mountain man is not good at defense, it is impossible for him to be directly killed by a thunder magic. Question mark? Everyone's heart was surging. How could the power of thunder and lightning be so strong? Is his thunder really only at the soul level? After Tang Mao solved several commander level mountain men, and Ni Lengshan of the military killed the biggest leader of the mountain men, those well-behaved mountain men instantly lost their fighting power. The various strategies that were displayed before were completely in chaos at this time. But whether it was the military magicians or the monster birds, they had no intention of letting the mountain men go. The one-sided massacre began. The mountain people fell in groups, and their bodies were scattered all over the place, turning the beautiful area under the Xianguan Zilin tree into a river of blood. The roots and slopes of the tree were also dyed bright red. After dealing with the mountain people, Tang Mao also met Mo Fan and Zhao Manan. The two were also very proud. Although they were very embarrassed when they were besieged, the girls around them were of high quality. However, Tang Mao was still interested in Xiaonu, who had a cold personality, but a hidden murderous aura. But no matter what his thoughts were, Tang Mao took them away directly. The people on the government side said they would not leave. He didn't say anything about this, and Mo Fan also reminded Ni Lengshan. It's just a pity that he is not the highest commander here, so it's not very useful to say it. Then Tang Mao, Mo Fan, Zhao Manan, Chenang and Xiaonu who were here, and the girls they rescued, followed and left here. Chapter 429 Big Hash Hash. Shua shua shua. Several people rushed quickly, and Tang Mao's speed slowly slowed down, after running for several miles. At this time, Mo Fan, Zhao Manan and several girls behind him also slowly stopped. Boss, why are you in such a hurry to run away? Mo Fan looked at Tang Mao with some confusion and asked. It seems that he is afraid of something. But, what else in the world can Tang Mao be afraid of? The Parthenon, isn't that just a casual slap in the face? Didn't the Dark Inquisition, the pride of the Holy Court, also flee in defeat? So, he really didn't understand. Why did such an arrogant person run away? Zhao Manan and others also looked at Tang Mao curiously. There is something wrong with that tree. It has at least the strength of monarch. Feeling the bloody smell wafting from afar, Tang Mao said in a calm voice. Hearing this, several people paused. He looked incredulous. Then, he said, it doesn't have what I want, so why should I provoke it? Originally, Mo Fan thought Tang Mao was scared. So that's the case. Zhao Manan said, aren't those people finished? The girls who ran out with him felt like they had survived a disaster. Fortunately, they had seen the horror on the tree and didn't covet anything, so they ran out with him. Otherwise, what would have happened to them at this moment? Xiaonu was unhappy with the attitude of the politician. Otherwise, she might not have left with Tang Mao and the others. It's a pity for Ni Lengshan. Mo Fan said with some emotion. People die for money, birds die for food. When the politician said this, no one objected, and no one left with us. Everything was self-inflicted. He told them that there was something wrong with the tree. Unfortunately, in front of a large sum of money, they didn't want to give up, so who could blame them? At this moment, Tang Mao felt a strong breath of wind tribute, rushing straight over from above. The other party didn't seem to notice them, and rushed towards the tree that reached the clouds in one go. Xiaonu was a sound mage, so she naturally noticed it. She stopped and said, I seem to feel a strong wind tribute force. So scary. After a pause, she looked back and said, if I'm not mistaken, the other party should be heading for that tree. It should be that big guy who found something wrong and took action. Tang Mao glanced at Chen Ying, then responded in a low voice, and then continued to move forward. Chen Ying naturally noticed the look in Tang Mao's eyes, but she didn't understand it. Woo! The rolling elemental airwaves slapped out, and several people here felt the terrifying feeling of the destructive power. Tang Mao could clearly feel that the destructive high-level lightning magic that he was usually ashamed of might be nothing in front of others. Is this the terrifying strength close to the forbidden spell? Sure enough, the strength is really desirable. Moreover, he knew very well that even a strong woman like Chen Ying's grandmother still couldn't kill the tree, but only caused it to be severely damaged. After a round of crazy rushing, everyone slowly stopped and rested for a while. Mo Fan couldn't help but say, "Boss, you look like you know a lot about this tree." Tang Mao shook his head and continued, "I don't know what this thing is. But what I know is that the strong man who just passed by should be Chen Ying's grandmother." After this, Mo Fan, Zhao Mannian, and Chen Ying were all dumbfounded. Are you kidding? Her grandmother? No matter how you look at it, she is just an ordinary old lady! Exclamation mark. It is really hard to imagine that such a terrifying destructive force that could collapse the sky and crack the earth was displayed by such an ordinary old lady. However, looking at Tang Mao's appearance, it is obvious that he is not joking. Chen Ying then remembered that Tang Mao glanced at her before. But she was very curious, how did Tang Mao know her grandmother? Don't look at me like that, I just met your grandmother when I came here. She was checking some bodies that died here and were wandering outside, and that was when I knew that she was not an ordinary old woman. Tang Mao paused and then continued to talk nonsense. However, what I didn't expect was that she actually had such a powerful force. It was only when I felt familiar with her just now that I remembered it. That grandmother. Chen Ying's eyes were red when she heard it, and she was a little at a loss. Although her mother was still alive, she was no longer a normal human being, and she was still living in the demon zone. She was supposed to be filial to her mother, but she didn't expect that her grandmother was actually a big boss, and she was fighting desperately with the big tree with a terrifying breath. Question mark? The old lady has an obsession in her heart. I think she has been pretending to be an ordinary person and suddenly exposed herself because of this tree. Tang Mao thought for a moment and then said, by the way, when she came here, she asked me to tell you when I meet you. If one day she decides to do something, it is her unfulfilled wish. Don't feel sad for her. Chen Ying was stunned when she heard this. Seeing the girl so charming, Tang Mao was a little embarrassed. After all, this was all nonsense. He said this because he knew that her grandmother was going to fight to the death. Otherwise, he would not say these things. Zhao Mannian gently patted Chen Ying's shoulders and said, since grandma has been hiding until now, there must be something that makes her feel regretful. Moreover, judging from the destruction magic just now, it is not necessarily the worst result. Chen Ying did not speak for Zhao Mannian's comfort, but she did not think about going back, because she knew that no one here would let her go back. The most important thing is that, if she goes back, if grandma is fine, she may become a burden. After comforting Chen Ying, they suddenly heard a rumbling sound from behind. Tang Mao paused, a little bit unbelievable. They had already run here. Why did the servants of the ghost tree chase them out? However, now was not the time to think about this, and hurriedly called everyone, run. They were originally comforting Chen Ying, but suddenly they heard Tang Mao shouting, and then heard Xiaonu said, it's bad. There are thousands of demons coming here, and they are all strong. After hearing this, they dared not hesitate, turned around and started to run. Zhao Mannian was confused and said, what's the situation with these demons? Grandma is fighting with the tree, why are they chasing us? Tang Mao ran wildly for a while and responded, if I guess correctly, this ghost tree wants to eliminate all humans in this area, to prevent it from being discovered. It may have survived for hundreds or even thousands of years, and hunted prey like this. Everyone's scalp tingled when they heard this. In this day and age, a tree can be so scary? How terrifying must this world be? After they ran wildly for a while, they suddenly saw a fluorescent moth in the blue sky in the distance. It felt like it was embellished by countless bright stars. The flying startail and fluttering green wings had an indescribable beauty. It had a nobleness that made other creatures ashamed, and a majesty that made people dare not act rashly. It was like a queen who exuded a special spirit and peerless charm. Its pair of soft wings like thin clouds seemed to be swaying gently and slowly, but it swept across a large area of the sky in a short time. "What is that?" Zeomanan asked with a headache. He didn't want to hear that it was a demon blocking the road. It was too terrifying. His little heart couldn't accept it. Exclamation mark. "Totem beast moon moth phoenix," Tang Mao said in a light voice. "How do you know? Do you know it?" Xiaonu said in confusion. After all, although the moon moth phoenix was very fast, it was still very far away. If they were not mages, they would not be able to see it clearly. "I believe it is not an enemy." Zeomanan happened to see two women with beautiful and sexy figures standing on the beautiful winged creature, and then he was sure that there was no danger. Xiaonu also looked over and saw that one of them was wearing a headscarf with a Jiangnan style, with black hair cascading down her shoulders like a waterfall, and the rest of her long hair was tied into a bunch, just touching the curve of her hips. The other one had beautiful silver tasseled hair and flawless skin. She was completely a fairy who walked out of the ice and snow heaven. She was tall, but had a curvy figure, starry eyes, red lips, jade hands and snow white feet, and there was nothing on her body that was not coveted. It must be said that these two women were very beautiful. With such beauties following them, the other party must not be stepping on some terrifying man-eating monster. The moon moth phoenix seemed to have discovered Tang Mao as well. It was very fast, just like a meteor passing by, and it flew close to the ground in a flash. The moon moth phoenix swung gently, shaking off Yushishi and Muningsu to Tang Mao and the others. Before they could come to their senses, it had already risen high into the sky and quickly disappeared in the direction of the Xianguan Zilin tree. The others were somewhat absent-minded, while Yushishi looked at Tang Mao anxiously and asked, "What happened here?" The moon moth phoenix suddenly broke out of its cocoon. Muningsu and I were worried, so we followed. She had protected the moon moth phoenix for so many years, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. The most important thing was that the moon moth phoenix didn't seem to have fully recovered yet, right? Its old rival is here, and its former guardian is also here, so it broke out of its cocoon regardless of everything. Tang Mao said in a calm voice. "Boss Tang, the moon moth phoenix seemed to ignore the demons chasing us." Zeomanan reminded weakly. Emo Fan and the others looked back, and sure enough, they saw smoke and dust rolling in from a distance, and getting closer and closer to them. As the enemy got closer, everyone realized that there were colorful skylarks, lizard tigers, jade demon bugs, and golden steel monsters. In short, they were all extremely powerful monsters, and not only were they all above the level of generals, but there were also nearly 2,000 of them. Among them, the 4-life lizard tiger was at the level of a great commander, and there were about 5 or 6 commander level monsters. What if there are more without a monarch? Do you really think I have a good temper? Get ready for battle. Tang Mao looked at the spirits and residual spirits rushing towards him with disdain, and said to the people around him. Although Emo Fan and Zeomanan's magic power had not been fully restored, they naturally would not say more nonsense, since their eldest brother had spoken. Then Muningsu used the power of the ice attribute, and her ice attribute power was increased several times. In the country, she obviously has a place in the top row of the ranking of high-level magicians. And Emo Fan used the power of the shadow attribute to set up the dark field. Zeomanan's operation was very simple. He put a layer of golden battle clothes on each of the 3 people. Lightning flashed around Tang Mao. Seeing that the 4 people were ready for battle, the people behind were a little stunned. You know, there are thousands of demons rushing over. Moreover, there are almost all generals among them, and even great commanders. Not only did they not continue to run away, but they also wanted to fight, even if they felt that they were very strong, and wanted to challenge a few famous women in the government. They felt a little unacceptable at this time. Can they really resist so many demons? Liu Xiaojia, one of the girls who was rescued by Emo Fan and Zeomanan, said timidly. No, I don't know. Another girl Lan Luo shook her head. To be honest, they want to run away now. But, not to mention, that these are a bit ungrateful. The most important thing is, can they really escape? Their magic energy recovery speed is not as fast as Emo Fan's. In addition, the girls have all been through a lot. If they leave here alone, they will definitely die if they encounter monsters on the road ahead. At this moment, the 4-life lizard tiger, who was the first to bear the brunt, has already rushed over. Heavenly punishment ice lock formation. The thick frost chains shuttled and intertwined around the 4-life lizard tiger frantically, quickly weaving into an ice strangulation formation. The iron chain tightly strangled the 4-life lizard tiger's body and tied up its limbs. The freezing air invaded its blood and bones. The huge lock formation immediately put the 4-life lizard tiger into a passive position. Shadow sword nail. At the same time, Fan also took action, and a series of black giant swords pierced its shadow, as if to restrict its movements. However, the commander-in-chief is still the commander-in-chief after all. The toughness of the 4-life lizard tiger's skin is unexpected. Even though the two people have restricted it, it has not been damaged too much. The 4-life lizard tiger madly broke free from the ice chain, stepped on the ice all over the ground, and turned into a sharp dark light. The dark light was like a huge curved blade, and it slashed through the position where Muningsu was at an extremely fast speed, looking for death. Tangmao flashed in front of Muningsu, and then a silver light flashed. The 4-life lizard tiger that rushed over with great momentum was directly bounced away at that moment. The space magic he cast with his current spiritual realm can throw away even some ordinary monarch level monsters, not to mention the commander level monsters. Without waiting for Xiaonu, Yushishi and others to be surprised, Tangmao then held the lightning in his hand. Purple sky domain. Boom 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 as the lightning domain opened. The ice layer and dark light on the entire land were all shattered. Silent thunder death light. Thunder beam. The thunderball filled with violent destruction became bigger and bigger in Tangmao's hand. He raised it high and threw it out instantly when the 4-life tiger pounced. Swoosh. With a sound, the thunderball broke through the sky and hit the huge body of the 4-life tiger. The 4-life tiger wanted to crush the thunderball with one claw, but the moment it slapped it with one claw, it instantly howled! Exclamation mark. The thunderball rushed straight into the sky. When it reached the mid-air, Tangmao clenched his fist and condensed it. Explode. A loud boom sound instantly spread throughout the sky. But it was not over yet. The 4-life tiger's body was shining with a beast light. The guy who was originally covered with wounds became a little stronger inexplicably. However, the power of the thunderball did not end like this, and it was still bombarding. Purple thunderbolt. And, under Tangmao's control, all the thunderbolts in the domain were fired at the body of the 4-life Sahu, with a bonus of more than 40 times. Even if it was just the bombardment of the domain thunder, it was almost the output of high-level magic. How strong was this 4-life Sahu? How many thunderbolts could it withstand? In the eyes of several people who couldn't believe it, the 4-life Sahu was smashed to pieces. After dealing with the 4-life Sahu, the wings of wind emerged from behind Tangmao. Then, a cloud of sand and dust rolled up, and he rushed towards the beasts head-on. Muningsu, Fan, and Zaomanan did not move, and still stayed here. Xiaonu was surprised and said, "He has already rushed towards the beasts, why are you still standing here?" Although Xiaonu felt that this behavior was reckless, she couldn't just watch him die in vain, right? Chapter 430 Heavenly Seed? Question mark? None of the three responded to Xiaonu's question. In fact, they were also in shock at this time. Tangmao's magic output has always been strong, which is something they know, but when can a thunder magic burst out with super level strength? Question mark? This is simply going to heaven. Of course, they also know that Tangmao must have received the God Seal praise ceremony. But even so, this is too abnormal. Yushishi, who was shocked by everyone's mystery, understood more. This man may have already possessed the legendary Heaven Seed! Exclamation mark. Heaven Seed plus the God Seal praise ceremony, only Heaven Seed can burst out such magic damage. However, Yushishi has always thought that the fire system is his main cultivation. Now it seems that my vision is too low. This is the world's #1 strength of the younger generation. However, even so, it should not rush into the beast group so recklessly, right? Boom 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 boom. However, before she had a chance to speak, the area of the beast herd in front of her, which was surrounded by dust and rushed over, suddenly became covered with dark clouds, followed by lightning and thunder, which continued to fall like a rainstorm. Electric chain. The 6 wings behind Tangmao rolled up, and lightning continued to fall in the beast herd. Although those demons wanted to tear him apart, they were too slow and could not touch the corner of Tangmao's clothes. Even in the beast herd, because he still had the space system, they had no chance to touch Tangmao at all except for being incompetent and furious. The demon birds in the sky wanted to attack from the air, but every time Tangmao moved, it was a storm of dust. Their attacks were either bounced off or hit the bodies of their own demons. Sure, even in the beast herd, Tangmao still came and went freely. After setting up the lightning area where hundreds of demons stepped into, Tangmao jumped up and stayed in the air. Purple Thunder Domain. Before the monster birds attacked, he launched a bombing of the domain. Boom. 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 Thunder roared continuously, and the beasts in the group had no chance to resist one by one, and were easily bombed into pieces. Moreover, when the thunder exploded, it also dispersed the thunder on other monsters. Then the thunder in the domain also bombarded the marked monsters without hesitation. As long as they were touched by the thunder element, they would immediately suffer a terrifying bombardment. Although the thunder bombing force was not enough to directly kill a commander, for ordinary warrior level creatures, it was almost as many as there were. A series of thunder bombings. In the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 monsters were bombarded and lay on the ground in black. Looking at the monster birds flying over, Tangmao also used the flames of Yanji and merged them into his own hands. The 3 kinds of flames, the blue Luan fire, the heavenly tribulation fire, and the fiery cloud fire, surrounded him. The magical power of the fusion of these 3 flames was no less than that of the destruction thunder. Xianyang funeral. Fiery fist. As he blasted up to the sky, the flames rushed into the clouds, and then big fists began to fall from the sky. The power of the flames fused from the 3 soul fires was already very powerful. Even the heavenly flame funeral was enough to cause countless casualties to these monster birds. However, what Tangmao used was still a high-level fire fusion magic fused with the fiery fist. These monster birds were generally mid-level general level monsters. Facing the flames fused from the 3 soul fires, they naturally had no power to resist. In an instant, roasted chickens fell from the sky one by one. Ice coffin. After sweeping a wave, but this was not over yet, Tangmao continued to depict the ice constellation. One by one, ice coffins fell from the sky. Bang bang bang. When the 5 coffins fell, hundreds of monsters instantly turned into ice sculptures. Then, one by one, they exploded and died. Of course, even though Tangmao's killing power was explosive, thousands of demons would not be wiped out by him in an instant. There were still nearly 100 that broke through his defense and rushed to Muningsu and others. Bing Bing Domain. Seeing this, Muningsu directly used the ice element condensed by Tangmao and quickly displayed the ice domain. Her ice power is now almost much stronger than Tangmao's power without the fusion of the snow girl. The reason why she can use Tangmao's ice is naturally because the degree of fusion between the two is getting more and more compatible. The ice in her body that was absorbed by Tangmao before has now been succumbed to her. This is also the main reason why Muningsu's ice power can surpass Tangmao now. Then, with her control, the cold ice continued to turn into ice cones and fell down. Although the killing power is not as considerable as Tangmao's thunder and fire, the ice cones that fell like a rainstorm are still enough to take the lives of most demons. Mo Fan then took action. The crackling thunder continued to explode in the sky. Although the power of his thunder system was not as explosive as Tangmao's, it was twice as powerful as the divine seal, and with the help of the soul seed, the power was nearly 20 times. In the eyes of Xiaonu, Yushishi and the girls behind, 20 times the power was already very terrifying. With the 2 of them taking action, 70 or 80 demons were turned into nothing. After they came back to their senses from the shock, they also took action. Yushishi's strength was not weak, and Xiaonu's strength was also not weak. With the 2 of them taking action, they also solved the remaining more than 10 demons. Thousands of demons that were originally aggressive. Under the bombing of several people, only a few hundred were left in a few minutes. Seeing this, those demons turned around and began to run away. Obviously, the demons were not afraid of death. After the demons led by them were solved, they were just a pile of scattered sand. Seeing the demons begin to retreat, the few people did not continue to chase them. After all, Emofan, Zaoman and the others had already consumed a lot of their magic power before, and they were really running out of ammunition and food at this moment. Moreover, several commander level demons were dealt with, but they were only some broken pieces. It didn't matter whether the remaining general level demons were killed or not. The chance of explosion was not high, so why waste this magic power? After dealing with these chasing demons, Yushishi looked into the distance nervously again, and saw that the sky of the outer Kunai mountain, which had always been azure blue, had changed to another scene at this moment. Looking around, the black elemental void layer was imprinted between the turbid sky and earth. She was a little worried about the safety of the moon moth phoenix, and wanted to go and see what was going on. But before she could move, Tangmyo reminded her in a calm voice, with your strength, you will be the first to explode and die if you go there. Although Yushishi was very unhappy with Tangmyo's tone, she had to admit that it was a fact. If they went, she would be the first to die. After all, that was a battlefield that even the moon moth phoenix felt tense. At most, she could only fight with some ordinary Kahung, and she was even stronger with countless moths. But what was she in front of the monarchs? Chapter 431 Shaoyu takes the bait. Okay, stop talking nonsense and leave here first. Without giving Yushishi a chance to refute, Tangmyo said to everyone. Faced with this irresistible order, Yushishi just pouted unhappily. She didn't dare to refute this dogman verbally. After all, she was really afraid that Tangmyo would use her to quench his thirst. After another round of rushing, everyone just stopped, and Tangmyo noticed the fluctuation of the killing jade. It's the moon moth phoenix. At this time, Muningsu said softly. Hearing this, Yushishi hurriedly raised her head, but saw the moon moth phoenix covered with wounds, so weak that it seemed to fall at any time. When watching one person and one totem beast fall down, Emofan took out the potion he got from Parthenon Zinxia and immediately used it on them. Unfortunately, these medicines didn't work at all. The scars caused by the devil tree could not be healed, and Yan's life was already dry, which had nothing to do with the wounds. Grandma. Chenaying's eyes were red. She didn't know why she saw Yanshi like this. I'm sorry. Yanshi lay on the soft leaves and didn't respond to Chenaying. Her eyes stared at the moon moth phoenix without a soul. She kept repeating this sentence, repeating it over and over again. The moon moth phoenix didn't respond at all. Her body suddenly turned into starlight and disappeared in front of everyone. Then a small moon moth with glowing lights all over its body flapped its wings and slowly landed on Yanshi's shoulder. Yanshi seemed to have something else to say, but unfortunately, her life had come to an end. The small moon moth that the moon moth phoenix turned into was also wrapped in moon white silk at the same time. With Yanshi's death, it seemed to have entered the end of this life cycle. Yushishi held her nervously. At this moment, the moon moth phoenix was too fragile, no different from an ordinary king mo. A trace of starlight slowly flew towards Yushishi and flew into her body, as if forming some special connection. The moon moth phoenix is a totem beast. Although it is dead now, totems are almost all undead creatures. As long as the conditions are met, they can be awakened again. Looking at the confused Yushishi, Tangmyo said in a calm voice, don't worry, you are its true next guardian, and it will wake up again in the future. Then what do I need to do? Since Yushishi moved into Yugsu town, she has acknowledged Tangmyo's identity as the totem leader. After hearing that the moon moth phoenix had just entered reincarnation, she breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked in confusion. Although she is the guardian of the totem, the life of the totem is too long. She is not sure if she can live to see it again. I will explain it to you in detail after I go back. Tangmyo's mouth corners slightly raised. You looking at his appearance, he seemed to have other intentions. Yushishi was unhappy for a while, but since it was related to the moon moth phoenix, she could only choose to tolerate it. Like Tangyu, the totem is like her elder. Without the moon moth phoenix, perhaps she would not be alive now. After returning to Yantei City, the cannibal trap was quickly reported to the government, the magic association, and the military. Tangmyo and his team were not the ones to deal with the next matter. They did not stop and returned to Phenio City. Tang Mao and Muningsu were not the only ones there, but also Emofan, Zaoman, Xiaoyu, and Yushishi. Xiaoyu wanted to challenge Muningsu, and Yushishi belonged to the Tang family, so they returned to Yuxu town together. Xiaoyu originally wanted to challenge Tang Mao, but after seeing the terrifying thunder of Tang Mao, she did not have the idea of humiliating herself at all. Then she wanted to challenge Muningsu. Muningsu naturally refused such a boring thing. After all, she was very busy every day. Where would she have the time to practice with her? However, Tang Mao agreed on behalf of Muningsu, but this was also conditional. If Xiaoyu lost, she would have to join Tang Mao's clan. Xiaoyu was alone, and she wanted to challenge an opponent to prove herself, so she didn't refuse. Muningsu was a little puzzled, but in his opinion, Tang Mao had evil intentions. Speaking of which, Muningsu could see the same feeling as himself in Xiaoyu. I have to say, this scumbag is really not enough. Tang Mao didn't know Muningsu's thoughts. If he knew, he would definitely tell her that the reason why he wanted Xiaoyu to join their family was nothing more than to participate in the family dispute. When he went to the East China Sea Magic Association, the allocation of some resources depends on the younger brothers in the family. Of course, both Tang Mao and Muningsu are old enough to play. But if both of them play, doesn't it mean that the head of the family is only equal to the younger brothers of other families? After returning here, Tang Mao first arranged the results of the competition between Muningsu and Xiaoyu, and there was no surprise. 2 days later, several people rushed to the headquarters of the East China Sea Magic Association, Gilangayu Island at the mouth of the Minjiang River. This exquisite southern island is not only a famous tourist destination, but also a relatively authoritative magic sanctuary in the eastern coastal area. Since the East China Sea Magic Association is directly under the International Asian Bay Magic Association, the Oriental Pearl Mage Tower, even as the largest magic headquarters in the country, has no right to interfere with the East China Sea Magic Association. Tang Mao has always been indifferent to this kind of power that does not know how to obey the motherland. After gaining a foothold in the country, a fighting venue, people from all major families have come here. The competition here is to compete for a large amount of profit resources such as various mineral veins and secret crystals. The venue here is not very large, and it is not even as large as the venue where the government took over the museum. However, the two people who are sparring on it are still enough to display their respective skills. At this time, the people of several families have almost fought for it, and when it comes to the competition for the large broken crystal mine in the direction of Nanling Forest in the north of Fenio City, Xiaoyu from the Tang family stands up. The one competing with the Tang family is the Dali family, the lackey of the Mu family. Muningsu originally wanted to let a boy named Chanting Bu play in the game, but Tang Mao rejected it. Then he said directly, "Xiaoyu, you come." Xiaoyu, who has become a member of the Tang family, did not waste words after hearing the order from her SP boss. She stood up and prepared to play. As for the Li family, the person who played was called Li Lingsheng. Miss Mu Lingsheng, who was previously from the Mu family and is now manager of the Tang family, was a little hesitant when he saw Xiaoyu arranged by Tang Mao. In his opinion, this should be a vase. So he stopped her. After all, in his opinion, if she went up to fight, wouldn't it be a waste? Of course, this is also the reason why he didn't know Xiaoyu's strength. The elder Linzen of the East Sea Magic Association, who presided over this family meeting, still didn't give them too much time to arrange. He looked at Muningsu and said, "Are you still going to compete here? Hurry up." Although the family was founded by the Tang family, the manager here has always been Muningsu. So, in the eyes of others, this should be Muningsu's territory. That's why this guy ignored Tang Mao and asked about Muningsu's relationship. "Stop talking nonsense, let her go." Tang Mao spoke at this time. Muningsu nodded and said, "Don't worry." It was only now that she understood Tang Mao's intention. It turned out that it was not just that he was eager to make a move, but also because of Xiaoyu's strength, so he asked her to compete with her to win her over. Of course, although this winning over was a bit ridiculous, it was still commendable from the perspective of strengthening strength. Who is this woman? She looks quite suitable for my taste. Li Ling, who had already entered the arena, smiled at the corner of his mouth when he saw Xiaoyu walking onto the arena. Xiaoyu's waist and sternum were very slender, but her breasts were surprisingly round and huge. The amazing full outline could be seen from behind. Li Ling was a famous playboy. When he saw Xiaoyu, his interest was lifted. Tang Mao wanted to give this bastard a social beating, no matter how he looked at his expression. After all, this woman is from his family. Even if he can't pick her, he won't allow the bastards from other families to have any ideas. This small Tang family is full of people who have done nothing. You are so young and beautiful, why do you have to stay in a small family that will soon perish? Come to our Dali family. I can give you everything you want, respect and admiration from people around you, admiration from your relatives, countless cultivation resources, and luxurious magic tools and magic weapons. Li Ling has not started fighting yet, but he has already started recruiting. I haven't even released half a magic. How can you be sure that I'm suitable for your Dali family? Xiaoyu felt a little funny and asked back. It doesn't matter, I'm strong enough. No one will have any objections to who I decide to train. Our Dali family has everything, Li Ling said with extra confidence. I don't know what the Dali family is like, but I can be sure that if you keep talking nonsense, my master will make you unable to take care of yourself. Xiaoyu glanced back at Tang Mao, showing a rare timid look. Speaking of which, Xiaoyu was also very unhappy. After all, she was obviously tricked by Tang Mao, although there was also a reason why she took the initiative to jump. So if she could find some unnecessary trouble for Tang Mao, she had to do it. Li Ling paused, and then looked at Tang Mao and the others. Of course, he was looking at Muningsu, because he also thought that Muningsu was the helmsman of this Tang family, and the real helmsman was fake. Looking at the stunning Muningsu, Li Ling was furious again. Speaking of which, he was also very interested in Muningsu. After all, this woman was really a disaster, especially her cold expression, which made him like her very much. After all, he liked the kind of cold woman who was trained to be a little slut that was extremely conquering. But after thinking of Xiaoyu's words, he turned around and said, "No way, your master actually likes women?" Xiaoyu was stunned when he heard it. Is there anything wrong with Tang Mao, a scumbag, liking women? But when he looked at Muningsu, she understood that this idiot had no idea who the hell was the master. Idiot, do it. Talking to you is a waste of my time. Xiaoyu shouted unceremoniously. Li Ling was stunned. He obviously didn't expect that this woman would dare to scold him? Question mark? His face suddenly darkened, and his eyes gradually became vicious. He wanted to show mercy, because the other party was so to his liking, but now it seems that, if she doesn't let this woman taste the pain, she will not put away her undue arrogance. Then, the two began to bombard each other with magic to draw star maps and constellations. Because Xiaoyu was in the sound system, Li Ling had difficulty even drawing the star map. Because of this, Xiaoyu beat him to the ground in a few moves. But for this kind of garbage, she would naturally not let it go. Then he used high-level plant magic, and the ghostwood hand that did not appear was a dark red giant trumpet-shaped flower. This trumpet was as big as the bloody mouth of a giant beast. It appeared at Li Ling's feet without any warning, and then swallowed him directly without Li Ling being able to react at all. After seeing this scene, Li Hongmei of the Great Li family shouted angrily, "Stop it now." Xiaoyu did not stop immediately. She could control the heat, and naturally wanted to make the arrogant Li Ling suffer a little more. However, Li Hongmei was completely furious. She turned into a black shadow, and arrived behind Xiaoyu at a very fast speed. Xiaoyu naturally noticed it, but Li Hongmei used magic directly in anger, and summoned a huge pile-like rock. Xiaoyu did not prepare for it at the first time, but the imagined terrifying collision did not come, but Li Hongmei's scream of "Ah" was heard instead! Exclamation mark. That's right, when the other party moved, Tang Mao also moved, and the speed was even faster. When she wanted to attack Xiaoyu, Tang Mao used a thunderbolt to blast her until she was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. This was because Tang Mao held back, otherwise, this woman would have been left with no way out. How dare you, wild boy, what are you doing? Are you deliberately breaking the rules? When Li Hongmei attacked, Elder Lenze didn't care. However, the moment he saw her flying out, he immediately reacted. What the hell are you doing? Is it wrong for me to protect my people? Can't you see that she broke the rules first? What kind of temper is Tang Mao? How could he tolerate such a person's problems? He directly retorted. Xiaoyu breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Tang Mao. After hearing what he said, she was delighted. To be honest, she didn't expect that when the Tang family needed to develop, Tang Mao would actually stand up and not be afraid of the elder of the East China Sea Magic Association at all. Li Hongmei is just eager to love her son, but you are hurting people and insulting this elder, which is against the rules. Lin Ze said, I'll give you one chance. Get out of here, or I'll make you spend the rest of your life in a chair. Why should he be so low-key about this obvious favoritism? For this kind of person, he would have to use his fists to reason with him. You arrogant little clan, how dare you threaten me? Lin Ze, the elder of the East Sea Magic Association, said angrily, and then looked at Mu Ningxu and said, Mu Ningxu, your people are so presumptuous, don't you have anything to say? Mu Ningxu snorted coldly, staring at the elder and said, I think he is right. Very good. It seems that you will not attend the meetings in the next few days. After a word of negation fell, Lin Ze pointed at Tang Mao and said, it seems that, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really don't know what this place is. Being provoked like this is the first time in so many years. How could Lin Ze endure it? You know, he is a super class magician. Bora, destroy him. Although Tang Mao might not lose, if he did it himself, sometimes he should let people know something. Although the Tang family is a small clan, not everyone can mess with it. Yes, sir. Following Tang Mao's order, the vampire Bora suddenly appeared in front of everyone. A long black leather windbreaker basically covered his entire body, revealing only a pair of red leather shoes and a pale face. He was indeed a little panicked about this sudden appearance of Bora, but that didn't mean that he would let Tang Mao go. Swoosh, a light and imperceptible cool breeze blew over. Elder Lin Ze was about to take action, but he didn't know that the man in a black leather windbreaker next to him had already appeared behind him. The strange smile and dangerous aura penetrated into him at the same time, making his neck cold and sweaty. Bora could handle even a famous superclass mage like Pang Lei, let alone Lin Ze, a superclass mage with no reputation. Almost from the moment the fight started, it was a one-sided abuse. Elder Lin Ze was beaten so badly by the vampire Bora that the other family members present, including some people from the Magic Association, were a little panicked. Especially the people from the Nanrang family, who were completely terrified at this time. You know, this is an elder of the Magic Association. Tang Mao actually said to fight. Do these lackeys of the Mu family also want to fight? Chapter 432, Black Snake Baksha cheers. Elder Lin Ze, who was so arrogant just now, was just like a lost dog. Bora also tortured him. Anyway, he had no intention of stopping until Tang Mao said so. Of course, he didn't give him a fatal blow because he didn't get Tang Mao's order to kill, and he knew that it would be very troublesome to kill him in broad daylight. That is Tang Mao, a student of the national government, right? Just as everyone was watching Lin Ze's brutality, a middle-aged man with his hair combed into a high bun came out. He was wearing clothes of the same level as Elder Lin Ze, with bright magic patterns. If you stand up for this idiot, I don't mind beating you up too. Tang Mao's voice was calm, but extremely rampant. The middle-aged man with a hair bun was very upset when he heard this. He had been here for so many years, and this was the first time he met such a crazy kid. But because he knew that Tang Mao was a member of the national government, and a member of the national government who had fought for great benefits for the country, and was also a benefactor of the ancient capital, and most importantly, when the people from the Magic Association went to report, he understood the whole story. So, even if Tang Mao was very arrogant, he did not glare at him, but said calmly, "Young man, calm down. It was Lin Ze's fault, but he has already been like this. Do you want to kill him? In this way, it will not be good for your Tang family." When they heard the word Tang Mao, those who didn't know the situation of the Tang family immediately understood. This is a real trustee. This kind of person who recognizes his father for a little benefit is also worthy of being an elder here? If so, then your Magic Association should not intervene in the mines in Finio City. Because the monarch there has been making a fuss recently. Whoever goes there will be killed or injured. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Tang Mao crossed his arms and said lightly. Hearing this, Elder Kang paused. He had already given Tang Mao enough face, but he didn't expect that Tang Mao would be so excessive? Even if this vampire is very strong, the Magic Association is not a vegetarian. And the moment Tang Mao finished speaking, this small island was shaken. Then, Bazir and Zhu and Snake suddenly appeared. Two huge monarchs just shrouded the island. Just the terrifying momentum alone made those people from the aristocratic families and the people from the Magic Association feel fear from the bottom of their hearts! Even this Elder Kang was the same. Because the oppressive feeling of these two monarchs gave people, they were almost the top existences in the monarch world? Who would have thought that there would be two such huge monsters in this world? The most important thing is that one of them seems to be the snake god of Hangzhou, right? Brother Tang Mao, let's talk it over. We will deal with Lin Ze's matter. Please let the Hangzhou snake god in them leave. Elder Kang didn't want to make any fearless sacrifices. Although they belong to the Asian General Magic Association, it sounds very powerful, but if they are wiped out by the two monarchs, in the end, it will just be a change of people. Elder, what you said is right. I didn't call these two demon monarchs here, and I can't let them leave. Tang Mao said indifferently. You. Elder Kang really met such a rogue for the first time, and he was speechless for a while. Then he had to order the staff of the Magic Association to press Lin Ze down and guard him. After ordering people to take Lin Ze away, Elder Kang said again, I will report to the higher ups, and will definitely deal with his behavior severely. Is this okay? Of course, but Elder Kang, don't go back on your word. Don't blame me when these demons appear again. Tang Mao smiled and said. As he finished speaking, the black snake and the tyrant also disappeared quietly in an instant. It was as if they had never appeared. Lin Ze wanted to speak, but when he was about to speak, his tongue had been crushed by Bala. Even some of the world's top healing mages might not have a chance to save his injuries. It can be said that this superclass mage is just useless. Although Elder Kang was unhappy with Tang Mao's shameless threat, he could do nothing about it. After all, it was all Lin Ze's own fault, so no one else could blame him. People from other families also got to know Tang Mao thoroughly today. I have to say that they were really impressed. The Tang family does not have a superclass mage, but no superclass family has a monarch level demon that is more terrifying than the superclass. Even some aristocratic families do not want to provoke such people. Especially since this kind of demon appears and disappears as soon as they say it, and since they don't notice it at all. It is really terrifying enough. For Tang Mao's domineering, Mo Fan, Xiaoyu and the younger brothers who came with him all had bright eyes. Their boss is obviously very powerful. What's wrong with the elders, affiliated with the Asian Magic Association? If they are right, shouldn't they be beaten? What family is not a family? What about the aristocratic family? Okay, Patriarch Tang, Lin Ze has been dealt with. How about we go to another place to discuss in detail? Elder Kang said to the shameless Tang Mao. Okay. Then, everyone left here together, and of course there were some other families among them. However, no matter who it was, there was no intention to compete for the resources in Phenio City at the moment. And Li Ling of the Dali family was even more panicked. He only understood who Xiaoyu was talking about. It was a good thing that he didn't continue to chat, otherwise, Lin Ze would be his fate. Some people who were sightseeing again were still in panic, but after seeing the two huge monsters suddenly disappear, someone from the Magic Association said that it was just a test of the image here, and then they appeased the tourists. Of course, some people naturally didn't believe this statement. After all, they clearly felt the real sense of oppression. However, no matter how suspicious anyone was, the people from the Magic Association said that it was an image, and in the end everyone could only let it go. At least there was no damage, which was enough. In a hall, I now announce that the mine outside Phenio City will be mined by Tang family. And, to express our apology today, the profit can be divided equally for 3 years. Elder Kang also directly offered his bottom price. Obviously, he was also very sincere. Of course, it may also be because of what Tang Mao said. If they don't give benefits, even if they don't give the Tang family a share, other families don't dare to mine now. After all, if you want to ensure safety, you need a forbidden spell master to be in charge. Otherwise, everything will be in vain. But if there is a forbidden spell master, why do you need to fight for such a small mine? Tang Mao looked at Muningsu. He didn't understand these things at all. Muningsu nodded and said, okay, we accept it. Okay, then it's settled. Elder Kang saw someone from the Tang family responding, and hurriedly agreed. As if he was afraid that they would regret it. Tang Mao looked a little funny, but didn't say anything. The other party has given enough face. If you keep on complaining, it's obvious that you are not taking it seriously. The Black Snake and the Overlord are very powerful, but that doesn't mean there is no one in Asia that can control them. Moreover, the reason for this is that they are right. If they are too unreasonable, it will really be more trouble than gain. Besides, even if the Tang family wants big resources, they don't have that many people at the moment. So, be content with what you have. The most important thing is that they can get the right to mine the veins alone for a period of 3 years, and the profit is split 50 to 50. This is enough for the Tang family to grow rapidly. Chapter 433, Long Lost Wife. After the resource grab, Tang Mao did not return with Muningsu. Similarly, Mo Fan also left. Although he was ready to work hard for Tang Mao, if he wanted to continue to improve his strength, he would still be left alone. Fortunately, Tang Mao also told him how to improve quickly, and also asked him to find Ling Ling. In fact, it was nothing more than asking Mo Fan and Zhao Manan to explore the clue of the totem. He claimed that he had something important to do, but he came to Nangxi Mountain because not long ago, he received a notice from his long-lost wife Tang Yu. Now she has been transferred to Nangxi Mountain to serve as the deputy chief judge of the trial. After receiving the news, Tang Mao came directly. It would be a lie to say that he didn't miss Tang Yu. After all, this is a serious first love. Outside the gate of the Nangxi Mountain trial, Yu, I have a surprise for you. Go outside and wait for a while. After Tang Mao came here, he said to the phone. What surprise? What are you doing now? Tang Yu's extremely mature and seductive voice came from the phone. Won't you know, if you go out and take a look, I promise you will like it and even want to come to the Magic City to find me. Just listening to the voice of his first wife, he can feel that he can show his masculinity today. I don't want to surprise Tang Mao. I miss you. Tang Yu said a little disappointed on the phone. Obviously, Tang Yu felt a little uncomfortable after not seeing each other for such a long time. After all, before this, the longest time they had been apart was only 1 or 2 months. Moreover, they still kept in touch. But because Tang Mao went to the government to gain experience, and because she was always on a mission, the two of them could be said to be apart more and more. Even if they wanted to chat on the phone, they didn't have the chance, and the longing became more and more serious. Although she wanted to find Tang Mao, when she came back from the mission, she couldn't leave because she had the opportunity to be promoted. Tang Mao listened to Tang Yu's aggrieved voice and felt distressed. She almost couldn't help telling her that she was just outside the door. However, in order to move his wife, he still held back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Then he said, go and receive the surprise I sent you first. I will find time to go there soon. There was a moment of silence on the phone. After a long time, Tang Yu's voice came again. Okay, yeah. Tang Mao knew that Tang Yu was not happy at the moment. After all, every time she came back from a mission, he would come to see her, even if he didn't have time. But this time, after such a long separation, he didn't come. How could his wife not be disappointed? How could she not feel uncomfortable? After a while, Tang Yu walked out of the trial. After Tang Yu came out, she looked left and right, but there was nothing. She was even more dissatisfied and said, hey, why don't I see anything? And at the moment she finished speaking, Tang Mao suddenly emerged from the shadows. When she noticed the fluctuation of the shadow energy, he had already come behind her. Then he hugged her from behind and whispered, wife, are you surprised? Originally, when Tang Yu noticed the fluctuation of the shadow energy behind her, she had already been alert. At the moment, when she was suddenly hugged, she was even more about describing the constellations. However, when she heard this familiar voice, all her actions stopped immediately. Asshole, you lied to me. However, Tang Yu did not notice anything unusual at this time. She just didn't expect that this dogman would not tell her the truth when he came. He made her feel uncomfortable for nothing. As she said that, her white and flawless jade hand stretched to Tang Mao's waist. She wanted to twist it a few times to relieve her anger, but Tang Mao suddenly hugged her tightly and kissed her domineeringly. Tang Yu was almost understood by him, so there was no struggle at all. Moreover, because she missed him too much, she also let him take her forcefully and obeyed obediently. The hand that was originally going to pinch Tang Mao also turned into hugging him. The two of them felt like a newlywed couple, and they ignored everything around them and tried to taste the taste of lips. Maybe it was because they hadn't seen each other for a long time, or maybe it was because Tang Yu was too mature. Tang Mao felt that he could no longer control himself, and even that restless hand had begun to want to conquer the city. Fortunately, Tang Yu was still sober and blocked him outside the city. Then, Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao shyly with her beautiful eyes and whispered, "Come to my office with me." Tang Mao and Tang Yu had tried almost all kinds of places, but the office was obviously a new place. Then he let her go and followed her into the trial. When the two walked into the trial, they happened to meet a young man coming out. When he saw Tang Yu holding Tang Mao's hand, he said a little unhappy, "Deputy Judge Tang, who is this?" "This is my boyfriend. Is there anything wrong, ZHU minimum?" Tang Yu didn't seem to like the person in front of her very much, and her voice was also very cold. ZHU minimum heard this. A flash of displeasure flashed in his eyes, but he quickly concealed it and continued, "Deputy Chief Judge, this is a trial meeting. How can you just bring in unrelated people?" Tang Mao wanted to slap him when he heard this, but Tang Yu came here to gild his reputation after all. He tried to be as tolerant as possible, otherwise it would be very troublesome, so he kept silent. And Tang Yu also lived up to expectations and said, "Do I need you to teach me what to do? I can handle anything by myself. Get out of the way." Seeing Tang Yu glaring, the young man was very unhappy, but still made way. Of course, when Tang Mao and the other person walked over, this dog thing stared at him with envy and jealousy, as if he knew what the two were going to do. Tang Mao, however, enjoyed it very much, because this is something that others can't get. After they arrived at the office, Tang Mao asked, "Is that bastard also your admirer?" Tang Yu nodded with disdain, and then said, "I only have you in my heart." Watching Tang Yu sit down, Tang Mao didn't listen to her explanation at all. After all, this plump round hip sitting on the chair, set off by the wasp waist, is full of temptation. I know, in short, the two chatted for a whole day, and she didn't do any work. But today, they recounted their own things in the past year, and work and so on were directly postponed. Moreover, after telling stories for a whole day, they didn't even drink a sip of water, let alone eat anything. Then Tang Mao took Tang Yu, who looked very tired, to find a place to eat outside. Chapter 434, The Authority of the First Wife. After a simple dinner, the two returned to Tang Yu's current residence. Although they didn't talk too much, and although Tang Yu was like a puddle of mud, Tang Mao still had endless thoughts, and kept telling Tang Yu. She didn't mean to refuse at all. That night, they talked all night long. The next afternoon, Tang Mao opened his heavy eyes. He talked all night last night, and he started to rest in the morning. Even with the physique of a magician, he was very sleepy under such consumption. Fortunately, the demon physique was fine, except that it could not strengthen the kidneys. Tang Mao, who was in good spirits, moved his tibia and climbed up because of the discomfort caused by staying up late and talking for a long time. As soon as he walked out of the room, he saw the prepared food on the table and Tang Yu, who was wearing an apron and cooking. "Well, it smells so good. Has my wife's cooking skills improved?" Tang Mao sniffed the fragrance and said in disbelief. Tang Yu glanced at Tang Mao, who came out, then snorted softly, and then said, "I'm afraid that you, a heartless person, will die in bed, so I'll earn some delicious food that can supplement nutrition." Tang Mao was embarrassed for a while, but thinking back to Tang Yu, who had fainted yesterday, he always felt a little defeated. but women's recovery ability in this regard is so terrifying. What can he do? It is really impossible to let her try the dangers of society again. After all, she stayed up too much last night and was almost overdrawn. Moreover, he is not a person who only thinks about these things. Who needs these? I don't know who was begging for mercy before. Tang Mao muttered dissatisfiedly. Hearing this, Tang Yu immediately said, don't eat if you have a temper. If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. I'll let you know tonight. Tang Mao said with a confident look. After a while, there was no soup left on the table. Tang Yu watched Tang Mao finish the last bowl of soup and laughed and scolded. I say, do you have any backbone? What is backbone in front of my wife? Tang Yu glanced at Tang Mao with contempt. He had never seen such a shameless and self-righteous person. As he said, in order to show his masculinity, Tang Mao picked up Tang Yu and prepared to give him a good lecture. After eating so many tonics today, he thought that he could continue to talk all night tonight. But ideals are full, but reality is cruel. In the early morning, although he wanted to resist, he was powerless. Sure enough, no matter how good the tonic was, it couldn't resist this wolf-like woman. Is it no good? If you admit it, sister won't bully you. Tang Yu had a triumphant attitude. Too much. It was too flattering. In other words, Tang Mao knew that she was actually almost at her limit. Otherwise, he would really admit defeat. After a short rest, Tang Mao turned over and regained the initiative. Then he said, what a joke. This is just the beginning. I have to stay up all night tonight. Suddenly thinking of something, Tang Mao said with a sly smile, by the way, I forgot to give you the gift I bought for you before. As he said that, he took out a black string with two thin little hats the size of little fingers on it and handed it to Tang Yu. After seeing this, Tang Yu was slightly stunned. Then she asked with some doubts, what is this for? Although she didn't know what it was, looking at Tang Mao's strange appearance, she could be sure that it was definitely not a good thing. This is. Seeing that Tang Yu didn't understand, Tang Mao explained it to her in detail. When she tried it, she realized how bad this guy was. This is simply playing tricks. Anyway, no matter whether it was tricks or not, Tang Mao obviously got a lot of help. Tang Yu, who had already turned over and made the decision, finally fainted due to exhaustion. Humans are sometimes so strange. Even if you are a very powerful magician, at some times, a weak woman is still a weak woman after all. When Tang Mao was not firing on all cylinders, they could still be a little proud, but once their potential was stimulated, how could they be opponents? Of course, the same consumption was also a flaw. Fortunately, although he could not evolve an iron kidney, he had the devil system, so he did not have to worry about it being directly useless. Sure enough, speaking of it, the devil system is looking. In the next few days, Tang Mao naturally could not stay up late with Tang Yu every day. After not seeing each other for so long, they could still leave some time to have a romantic lunch outside, go shopping, etc. Tang Yu actually saw through everything a long time ago, but it was just an excuse that Tang Mao was overdrawn. But she did not expose him. After all, her man also had to save face. And in the past few days, Tang Yu also understood some things. Even guessed some things. For example, he founded Tang Corporation, but now it is Muningsu who is at the helm. Exclamation mark. That night, Tang Yu, almost, but that was her own happiness after all, and from the name of Yuxu Town, she was obviously more important. However, because she guessed that this bastard had a little one outside, Tang Mao was thrown into another room. Even when she had time to go out and play, Tang Yu was indifferent. Not to mention, Tang Mao was really panicked when Tang Yu was like this. He even regretted it a little. Why couldn't he lie? He could not care about anyone in this world, but he really couldn't do it for Tang Yu. After all, she was raised since childhood, and she loved him wholeheartedly. Tang Mao's annoyance, she naturally saw all of it. In fact, she was not really angry. After all, Tang Yu also knew that she couldn't leave this bastard man. And she didn't mean to give the bastard she raised to other women. The reason why she pretended to be angry was nothing more than to warn Tang Mao. Let him understand that it's not everything that he doesn't care about. Of course, since it has happened, she can't stop it. It can't be that this bastard was pushed by Muningsu and she forced Tang Mao to break off contact with the other party, right? This is not realistic, especially because of her work. She simply does not have that much time to look after Tang Mao. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 435 Sister Muningsu. Time passed by, and in a blink of an eye, Tang Mao had been in Nangxi Mountain for more than 10 days. Except for the first few days, he had been spending the night alone. Although he wanted to sneak attack at night several times, he really had no temper when facing Tang Yu. There was no way, but everyone would be afraid of someone. Of course, it was actually fear, but also love. He didn't want Tang Yu to be disappointed in him, or even really ignore him. Another night passed. Tang Yu cooked dinner that day. When she went to the trial meeting, she looked at Tang Mao and said, "Tomorrow, I want to go to the new home to take a look." Tang Mao naturally knew where this new home was. He was stunned subconsciously, but when he saw Tang Yu, who looked good, frowning, he immediately came back to his senses and said, "Okay. As long as you have time, I can be there anytime." After hearing what Tang Mao said, Tang Yu nodded with satisfaction and left. She was satisfied, but the moment the door closed, Tang Mao had a headache. Are you kidding? Although Muningsu is not competitive, she may not be willing to be a younger sister when Tang Yu suddenly comes. Although Tang Yu is older than her, and Tang Yu suddenly said that she wanted to go to the new home, Tang Mao always felt that her aunt was going to make trouble. Speaking of which, Tang Yu is now a superclass mage. A fire-type superclass mage who was just promoted not long ago. The first wife's talent is still impeccable. But then again, I always feel that I will die without a burial place tomorrow. Tang Mao even thought about whether to transfer Muningsu out of Yuxu town. Although Muningsu will definitely get angry after knowing it. But Muningsu is completely submissive to herself. It is completely different from Tang Yu. As long as she prepares more milk for her, everything will not be a problem. Thinking of this, Tang Mao is ready to contact Muningsu. However, after picking up the phone, he did not make the call until the end. Because of a trace of guilt in his heart, it was really too much to treat Muningsu like this. Although in the eyes of outsiders, Tang's is actually Muningsu's. However, he knows very well that Muningsu has always been working for him, building a foundation for himself. After all, Muningsu has always applied to him for any major events. Even though he has said many times that it is not necessary, this woman has never meant to decide everything by herself. Even if she can't be contacted sometimes, she will leave a message. Alas, thinking of this, Tang Mao sighed slightly. To put it bluntly, he was a little promiscuous. Why bother with so many girls for no reason? Fortunately, the others have their own affairs. Otherwise, it is really unimaginable. However, tomorrow will definitely be a tragic day. But in fact, thinking about it, from the unknown Surefield and the known, he can still accept the latter. At least he can die with a clear mind, right? For a day, Tang Mao rarely practiced, so he kept thinking about tomorrow's affairs. The next morning, Tang Yu seemed to have had a rest. The two of them took a plane and arrived in Fenio City early. After that, they came to Yuxu town. Today's Yuxu town has been built quite perfectly. Although it is still evolving, it can be regarded as a medium-level town in China. It's really good here. Muningsu is worthy of being the little princess of the largest family in Bo City. The governance is still good. Tang Yu looked at the construction around and nodded with satisfaction. Tang Mao nodded except for HMM. Anyway, he was flustered and didn't have the prestige of the past. And their arrival was naturally noticed by the patrol mages of Yuxu town. Seeing that their boss had returned, someone immediately went to report. Although Tang Mao saw the silly boy reporting, he couldn't stop him. He just remembered the appearance of the patrol mage in his heart, thinking that as long as he didn't die, he would definitely give this kid a social beating. What the hell? Why is he acting fine, pretending not to see me? Can he still give him a demerit? Why, you Tang Zha are still afraid? Tang Yu suddenly stopped and asked with a playful look on her face. Tang Yu was full of charming and enchanting feelings. Now she was suddenly so naughty, not to mention a different feeling. Tang Mao suddenly felt that he could stand up again and stay up all night with him. As for the troubles, it's just that the dead are gone. Unfortunately, Tang Yu has no interest in staying up all night with him. Moreover, at this time, Muningsu in this town has come out, followed by Xiaonu, Yushishi and others. He was not surprised to see Xiaonu, but seeing this little goblin Yushishi, Tang Mao was puzzled. Why did she come to the town when she was a good goblin? The most important thing is that this little bitch didn't come here when he was here. Well, you have a good eye. They are all first-class beauties. Tang Yu glanced at the three women in front of him, turned back and smiled slightly and praised. Xiaoyu is quite capable and joined here. After all, when competing for resources, there must be someone who can show off. Yushishi lives here because of the totem moon moth phoenix. Tang Mao introduced Xiaonu and Yushishi separately. Although he also had his own selfish reasons for letting them stay here, he couldn't admit anything at the moment. After all, he didn't get to eat it. Then he said, you and I don't have any super friendly relationship. So, that silver-haired beauty is related. Tang Yu asked back with a smile. Tang Mao was speechless for a while. How could he respond? If someone else asked this, he would have slapped him in the face. Just when Tang Mao was speechless, Muningsu and others also came over. She naturally had an impression of Tang Yu. Otherwise, why would she come to greet him with such fanfare? In fact, she had guessed it as early as when Tang Mao decided on the name of the town. And today, when she heard that Tang Mao came with some mature ladies, she estimated that it was Tang Yu. After approaching, Muningsu said politely, Sister Tang Yu. Although she was younger than Tang Yu, she was called Big Sister right away, which disappointed Muzoyan who followed her. However, he was very tactful and didn't say anything, especially after coming back from the Magic Association. No one in Yuxu town was dissatisfied with Tang Mao. Well, Sister Ningsu, my coming here won't affect anything, right? Tang Yu was not as sensible as this little genius and responded with a smile. Of course, Muningsu's smile was still very friendly. No, if Sister Yu is willing, she can come back in person to preside over the overall situation. Hearing what Muningsu said, Tang Mao felt contempt in her heart. When did this Muningsu become a dog licker? Tang Yu also knew countless people and naturally could tell whether it was true or false. She really didn't expect Muningsu to be like this. Therefore, Tang Yu, who originally had no intention of causing trouble, shook her head and said, I'm not very good at family management. I came here today just to see where I will live in my old age. Sister Ningsu, you should be in charge of this family. Then the two of them started to ask each other about each other's well-being. Tang Mao, who was a little overwhelmed, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, let's all go in. Tang Yu chatted with Muningsu for a while, got to know the people here, and then spoke. Muningsu took her inside. Along the way, Tang Yu also asked about Tang Mao's performance during the training in the government. Although she said she was asking about his performance, he still knew what the woman was asking about. But when Muningsu said it, it seemed to change its taste. For example, when in Japan, Mochizuki Chiksen, and Irene in the UK. Although this is a fact, seeing Tang Yu smile, it must be said that Tang Mao was a little flustered. Chapter 436 The person in this world that Tang Mao is afraid of. Muningsu led the two of them to a room, while the others went about their own business. After she honestly recounted what had happened over the past year, Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with a bad look. It seemed as if she was saying, I need an explanation. I said, we are just ordinary friends. Do you believe it? Tang Mao paused and said, yes, how can I not believe it? Tang Yu nodded, and then said, but if I find out that you lied to me, you will sleep on the sofa in the future. Ahem. Actually, I just remembered that Jiang Xiaoxu and I have a little relationship. Speaking of which, during the year of training, she was a real girlfriend. Anything else? Tang Yu continued to ask with a smile. That Munujio also has some relationship with her. Anything else? Tang Yu narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly, full of anger, but she endured and continued. Although Tang Mao was good at observing people's expressions, he had no temper at all in front of absolute authority. Moreover, if you don't say some things now, you may die in the future. Mochizuki Chiksen is also somewhat related. Kneel down. Tang Yu said calmly before Tang Mao finished speaking. Although there was no anger mixed in it, the serious expression alone made Tang Mao kneel on the floor obediently. After watching him kneel down, Tang Yu looked left and right. Muningsu looked at Tang Mao's cowardly side, and to be honest, she envied him. However, she could still tell who was in charge at the moment. After seeing Tang Yu looking left and right, she asked, "Sister Yu, what are you looking for? I think this is too difficult for him. Find something to cushion him." Muningsu asked puzzledly, "A cushion? Too soft, he doesn't deserve it." Tang Yu shook her head. "Oh, I bought a massage board not long ago. What do you think?" Muningsu understood instantly, and then asked softly. To be honest, he really didn't think that Muningsu had such a bad side. "It's okay, then you can find Sister Zhu." Tang Yu nodded. Looking at Muningsu who went out to find the acupressure mat, Tang Mao looked at his wife helplessly and said weakly, "You, give me some face. Don't you think I'm not good enough to you? Can I let you experience this kind of pain?" Muningsu was not here, and Tang Yu did not hide her anger at all. This year, she was worried about him every day. She missed him every day. But, this scumbag? This year, I think he has been too careless. In fact, she thought that this SP would definitely make mistakes when she was not around. Moreover, she was mentally prepared. But, this mistake, some of it was too much beyond expectations. How could Tang Yu tolerate it? Enough. Although she knew that Tang Yu would not give him a hat, it was much more appropriate to go along with it at this time than to stimulate her. Humph. On the other side, Muningsu found the acupressure mat and couldn't wait to appreciate the lawless guy Tang Mao kneeling down to admit his mistakes. Then he quickly walked back to the room. However, when she was about to go upstairs, she saw Muzoyan. "Dad, is there something wrong?" Muningsu asked in confusion after seeing Muzoyan. "Ningsu, are you willing to be a slave?" Muzoyan hesitated for a moment before asking. "Dad, do you think I can compete with his childhood sweetheart Tang Yu?" Muningsu asked instead of answering. "Why not? My daughter is so beautiful and so talented." Muzoyan praised his daughter without any reservation. Although there was some water in his words, it is undeniable that Muningsu is indeed very good. "But, Dad, you know, I have never seen Tang Mao listen to someone so much." Muningsu was a little disappointed. After all, that person was not her. But now that it has come to this point, it is redundant to say anything. After saying that, Muningsu walked upstairs, and Muzoyan did not say anything. He always felt that people like Tang Mao were the kind of people who were fearless. After all, when they were in the East Sea Magic Association, not to mention an Iran family and the Dali family, that the Mu clan had connections with, even their elders were beaten casually. But I didn't expect that he would have such a side. After Muningsu returned to the room, it was almost a nightmare for Tang Mao. Although his physique was good, the pain of the acupressure board was really a torture. The most important thing was that Tang Yu had sealed his magic when she was giving him extra lessons. Although Tang Mao could force it to be unlocked by his own output, he didn't have the temper to do so. He knelt for a long time, and finally when Tang Mao felt that he was numb and completely unconscious, Tang Yu let him get up. Of course, they didn't just stare at each other for half a day. Teacher Tang Yu also taught him a lesson with deep emotion, and gave Muningsu a right. If Tang Mao was still teasing the little girl, she could tell her if she couldn't solve it. At night, Tang Mao, whose legs were slightly trembling, brought Tang Yu to the place where the black snake was stationed. "You bring everyone here. What about Hang Zhao?" Although Tang Yu knew that Tang Mao needed the black snake. But if Hang Zhao lost the black snake, could the white magic eagle clan still stay in their nest? Tang Mao hurriedly said, "Whether Hang Zhao is in trouble or not is none of our business. The Hang Zhao army, the Magician Association, and anyway, they are not vegetarians. Wife, you have to listen to me about this. Right now, our family has just been established and needs everyone to guard it. You can't be too compassionate. I understand what you said, but I don't want to see what happened in Bo City happen in Hang Zhao." Tang Yu sighed. Don't worry, if Hang Sao is really in trouble, I will bring the black snake to reinforce. The old man said Hu Meng has contacted me before. Tang Mao responded. He is not really cold-blooded and ruthless, and he knows the importance of the black snake. Of course, if Hang Sao needs his help this time, the government will have to pay a little. When has he, Tang Mao, ever done free odd jobs? Even if the black snake takes action, it is his tool snake, right? However, he did not mention this. Tang Yu still listened to Tang Mao in this regard. After all, to put it bluntly, this was her home in the future. As the saying goes, if a man does not work for himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. If the Tang family could really go far, there would be no need for the Hang Sao trial council to make such a big fuss. She would have more time to accompany him. As for whether to accompany him, or watch over him, only Tang Yu knew. Chapter 437 Educating Yushishi. After staying with Zuansh for a while, Tang Yu and Tang Mao returned to their residence. Of course, when he arrived at the room, he was kicked out. The first wife's anger was obviously not eliminated. However, this is not Nangxi Mountain. Tang Yu doesn't want him, but he still has Muningsu. Having many wives is not without benefits, especially one who can't be controlled, and another who can be easily controlled. At this time, it is natural to bully the easy to bully. However, when Tang Mao came to Muningsu's door, he was still turned away. Even when he wanted to go in directly, Muningsu said, "Sister, you said that you have to sleep on the sofa, otherwise you have to kneel again tomorrow." Well, Tang Mao could only leave a few harsh words in the end, and then left very spinelessly. Back to his residence, Tang Mao said, "Women and the like will only affect the speed of my cultivation. I will just meditate tonight. What's often tender? No need." The first wife stayed in Yugsu town for a whole week, and during this week, Tang Mao also seriously changed from a rogue to a modest gentleman. What about swearing? Almost nothing. It's like a different person. Everyone was confused about this. Of course, Muningsu knew all the reasons. After sending Tang Yu away, the first thing Tang Mao did was to take Muningsu, the cold girl, to his room. The little girl was still thinking about moving Tang Yu to manage him, but she found that it seemed that there was no such thing. On this day, she understood what it meant that distant water cannot quench nearby thirst and what it meant that when there is no tiger in the mountain, the monkey will be king. Muningsu did not show up on this day. She was usually the most diligent, but today she fell into a coma. The public grain she had saved for more than 10 days before and after was enough to feed her. Back mountain. A crisp and loud slap was slapped on the elastic place. It couldn't be more pleasant. Looking at Yushish's ashamed and angry look, Tang Mao said nonchalantly, "Little demon, you should be arrogant again." In addition to Muningsu, the one who made trouble for him these days was this little demon girl. I don't know how this little goblin knew it, but she always used her wife to make trouble. What do you mean? Do you dare to bully her? What do you mean? I won't tell her how to wake up the moon moth phoenix. What do you mean? I'm greedy for her body. In short, she is so proud of herself. Even though her wife has returned to Nangxi Mountain today, this little goblin is still playing tricks on her? This is naturally unbearable, so he quenched his thirst. Not only did he quench his thirst, but now he has begun to knock this little goblin. Yushish's eyes were red, staring at the scum in front of her. To be honest, she didn't expect that she would run into the gun as soon as the person who could suppress him left. In the end, she was directly stripped. Although Tang Mao has not broken through the last step until now. But, given the current situation, what difference does it make? But she really didn't dare to provoke this bastard. Otherwise, who knows if he would suddenly give her asterisk asterisk. You said that if there is anything wrong, just let me bring it up. Why are you blaming me now? Yushishi said aggrievedly. Pa. The moment she finished speaking, another loud slap was heard. Tang Mao directly said, "Why didn't you listen to me when I asked you to kneel down?" Yushishi didn't expect that this scumbag could say such vulgar words, but if you think about it carefully, isn't he such a person? After a moment of silence, he said, "You stinky hooligan. Pa. You keep scolding me. If I don't let you recognize your situation today, I won't be named Tang." The little goblin's noble appearance made him most unhappy. However, think about it, she has lived with moths, since she was a child. Where has she received any education? Even if she learned it later, it was not formal. Tang Mao felt that he needed to teach her well. It must be said that he was like an old father who was dedicated and hardworking. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was the case. Tang Mao smiled and slapped her again. You know what? It's really addictive. Yushishi was a little angry, staring at Tang Mao and said, I didn't say anything. Why did you hit me? Hitting is love. Scolding is love. You know nothing. Seeing him as if it was his due, the angry little demon girl wanted to bite him to death. Why, you don't accept it? For this little demon who was very noble all day long, he still liked to see her like this now. Yushishi was nailed by Tang Mao with the shadow system and couldn't move at all. Otherwise, how could she be like this now? In order to get less beatings, even if she was wronged, she chose to keep silent. After all, the beating didn't hurt much, but it was so shameful. Are you ignoring me? But if someone wanted to find trouble, even if she did nothing, the troublemaker could still find fault. Don't go too far. Otherwise, Yushishi was about to explode. She wanted to tear him into pieces. It's wrong for her to speak now, and it's wrong not to speak. In short, it's wrong in every way. Hey, I was just too much. You don't accept it? Tang Mao raised his hand again, and when he was about to slap her, his phone suddenly rang. As soon as he answered the phone, he heard Ling Ling said hurriedly, Tang Mao, where are you? I'm in Yuxu town. What's wrong, little baby? What's the matter? For such a cute little lolly like Ling Ling, it is natural to treat her gently. Yushishi listened to Tang Mao's address and looked at him with an expression that said, you have successfully disgusted me. He didn't care. Anyway, this little witch has plenty of time to educate her, and it doesn't matter if she takes a while. My sister is in trouble. Ling Ling didn't refute Tang Mao's address, and even seemed to not care at all, but said in a heavy tone. As she said this, Tang Mao remembered that Ling Ling seemed to have not appeared for a while. Don't worry, where is she now? What happened? Tang Mao comforted her. However, Ling Ling was still calm enough and did not lose her mind. Then she said, my sister was targeted by a master of the assassin's palace and almost died in the demon city. But her voice still sounded a little uneasy and a little scared. Is she still alive? Tang Mao paused and said, I heard from the people over there that my sister is still in danger and that assassin may attack her again. Ling Ling said, that's good. Don't be afraid. I'll find you now. We'll go to the demon city. Don't worry, your sister will be fine. After she finished speaking, Tang Mao hung up the phone. Then, she removed the control of the little demon. The first thing she did when she was freed was to hide. What's there to hide? You're acting as if I've never seen it before. Tang Mao curled his lips and said, I'll come back to play with you after I finish my business. Yushishi wanted to ask what happened, but seeing Tang Mao's appearance, it didn't seem like anything important. Hearing his submissive tone and his unsatisfied attitude, she immediately said angrily, get out, get out. Tang Mao didn't say any more nonsense. After all, his little Larita's sister was still in a dangerous state. Then, the six-wing swish opened, and with a silver light fluctuation, he disappeared from the spot and left Yuxu town directly. Although some people noticed the strong spatial fluctuation, no one noticed anything. Moreover, except Yushishi, no one knew that Tang Mao had left. Even Muningsu didn't know. After all, she was not much better than Yushishi, and she was probably still in a coma. After Tang Mao left Finio City, he rushed to the Kingshan hunting house in the magic city with full firepower. Although this consumes a lot of magic energy, it can save a lot of time. P.S. Today's monthly vote succeeded 100. There will be extra chapters. Please vote! Exclamation mark. Chapter 438 Easy Solution. Tang Mao was very fast. In just over an hour, he took Ling Ling from Kingshan hunting house to a plane to Guangzhou. On the way, Tang Mao comforted Ling Ling. Don't worry, I will make sure that nothing will happen to your sister. But, although Ling Ling believed in Tang Mao's strength, according to the news he received, Ling Ling is still in danger. The most terrifying thing is that there are assassins from the Killer Horde chasing after him. The Killer Horde is naturally a force, but like the Black Church, it is not in the light. Although it is true to say so, the assassins of the other party are still at large until now. As for why this is the case, it is naturally because those upright forces are almost on the verge of corruption. Now they are still thinking about how to fight for power. It can only be said that this is the world. If the top forces of the 5 continents were all dedicated to the people, the Black Church or the Killer Hall, these forces that are not in the light would have been easily disintegrated long ago. Unfortunately, no matter which powerful force, the target of their firepower has always been those good people. There's nothing to worry about. Don't you still believe me? Tang Mao held Ling Ling in his arms and stroked her gently. This time he really didn't mean to take advantage of her. He just wanted to comfort Ling Ling. Ling Ling nodded, but it was obvious that she was still so uneasy. But thinking about it carefully, it was true. After all, that was her biological sister. At her age, it was good enough that she didn't keep wiping tears. After the two arrived, they hurriedly found the place where Lenking was hiding. When Ling Ling saw Lenking lying on a wooden bed dying, her eyes suddenly turned red. After all, she was a little girl. No matter how strong and calm she was on weekdays, she naturally couldn't control her emotions when she saw her loved ones become like this. She didn't want the same thing that happened to her father to happen to her sister again. Lenking didn't stay in the trial, but in a very backward rental house, a very inconspicuous place in Guangzhou's urban village. Seeing that the two didn't dare to step into the hospital, Tang Mao felt a little ridiculous. When did a presiding judge suffer a serious injury and fall to the point where he didn't dare to go to the hospital for treatment? I'll take you to the hospital. Tang Mao said nothing and hurriedly carried the extremely weak Lenking on his back. No, absolutely not, said the judge who was taking care of Lenking. This judge was also a woman, and she looked very young. I think she should be the right-hand man that Lenking always carried with her. What are you afraid of? With me here, nothing will happen to her. Tang Mao would naturally not listen to her. If he really couldn't save Lenking, what was he doing here? The assistant was originally haggard after being scolded by Tang Mao, probably because he hadn't slept for many days. However, he was now much more awake. No, you will die. We are being watched all the time. Assistant Xiaoping's eyes revealed a sense of fear, and she even hesitated when she spoke. It's okay with me here. Tang Mao also knew that the assistant had seen the killer's ability, so she was so scared. But I was going to take my sister to the hospital, but my sister said she had something to tell me, so she left a step later than the senior, and the senior died on the street. That guy seemed to have a pair of eagle-like eyes, hovering over us. No matter where we go, he can find us. Xiaoping said hurriedly. It seems that she is afraid that the same tragedy will happen again, so she is so excited. Tang Mao. Ling Ling looked at Tang Mao with red eyes and seemed to be a little scared. Believe me, it's okay. I think since he can find you quietly the first time, even if he doesn't move, he will find you the second time. Instead of waiting to die, you might as well rush out with me. Tang Mao said to the assistant. The assistant was still hesitating, and seeing this, Tang Mao's patience was gone. Somewhat impatiently, he said, follow me, or get out of the way and I'll take her away. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll knock you out and leave you here. The assistant didn't dare to say any more nonsense, so he made way. Tang Mao was directly held in Lenking's arms and took her to the headquarters of the Demon City Judgment Association. Lenking couldn't be saved in the hospital. The only ones who could save her were some healing mages in the Yeodu Judgment Council. Not long after the 4 of them came out, Tang Mao felt a killing intent. Then he whispered, you two, keep some distance from me. Ling Ling and the assistant paused, and the next moment, Ling Ling stepped back a little. Although the assistant wanted to take care of Lenking, she saw that Ling Ling had done it, so she naturally cooperated obediently. Sure. As Ling Ling and the others left, at the same time, the cold meteor dagger suddenly fell and pierced a hole near Tang Mao, and the coldness instantly swept away. Tang Mao naturally dodged it, and then looked at the killer in front of him wearing a black hooded robe, and then handed Lenking to Ling Ling and the others. Oh, good reaction. Isn't it good to be alive at such a young age? Why do you want to come and die? The killer Bijang stood in front of Tang Mao, exuding an evil aura. "You bastard, you're unlucky to run into me." As he said that, Tang Mao summoned the Snow Girl and the Shadow Demon Tiger to protect Lenking, and then he disappeared from the spot in an instant. This sudden operation made the four people present stunned. On the rooftop in the distance, Bijiang's body was a little puzzled. What was Tang Mao doing? But the next moment, he felt a wave of space here. Then, a flash of explosive thunder surrounded him. He was sure that he had never encountered such a terrifying thunder in his life. Moreover, he never expected that the person he met for the first time would easily break his power. Boom. A sudden explosion of thunder sounded, and Bijiang didn't even have time to use his magic tools and magic weapons. He just lay down directly. Looking at Bijiang's dry body, Tang Mao refined it with fire, and finally directly absorbed his soul. Although Bijiang still wanted to resist, he was unwilling to die. However, not to mention that Tang Mao still has the Killer Jade. Even if he doesn't have it, he can't resist it with his own mental strength. After absorbing his power, Tang Mao easily took it for himself. Although the power of darkness comes from the Dark Kingdom, the process of drawing the Dark Star is actually signing and sealing with the Lord of Darkness, using one's own magic power as a sacrifice to obtain power from the Lord of Darkness, which is not quite the same as the elemental power floating between heaven and earth. He was beaten by the Dark King, and the shadow system should not be able to be used. But after that time, he found that his black magic was not only not banned, but also strengthened a lot. Now with the ability of this humble craftsman, he seems to have regained a new dark power. With this ability, Tang Mao's shadow system, it almost seems like it is about to break through the high level third level in one fell swoop. Chapter 439 Shadow Level 3. At this time, the craftsman in front of the Shadow Demon Tiger and the Snow Girl had a gloomy look on his face, but the next moment after Tang Mao left, he suddenly turned into a black shadow and disappeared in front of them. Lenking's assistant thought that they were abandoned when she saw Tang Mao suddenly leave. Moreover, this time, I'm afraid they are really going to be in trouble. Who knows, the craftsman who was so scary and gloomy just now suddenly disappeared. Question mark? Disappeared just like that? This assistant carried Lenking on his back, no longer sleepy, and looked at the scene in front of him in confusion. It's okay, we are safe. Take my sister to the trial. Although Lingling also wanted to know how Tang Mao solved this craftsman, the most important thing now is to save her sister. Lenking at the moment really felt precarious. The three of them directly got on the Shadow Demon Tiger, and led by the Snow Girl, the three people and two beasts rushed to the trial. The assistant looked at Lingling and said hesitantly, "Is he okay?" Although Lingling knew that the assistant was a little mentally ill, she couldn't help but say, "Don't you see that the two summoned beasts are fine?" The assistant was so surprised that she couldn't close her mouth. You know, even a superclass mage could only repel the person who was chasing them. Some superclass mages would even be killed inadvertently. But Tang Mao, a high level mage, actually dealt with it. Although I don't know what the result will be, the disappearance of the killer in front of them at least proves that the two are fighting. In other words, the opponent is actually dealing with a tough guy that Lenking can't deal with. On the other side, Tang Mao is integrating the new shadow energy. He doesn't know what this is, but it is definitely a good thing for him. As for the soul of the craftsman, it has already been digested at this moment. The majestic energy is continuously injected into the body. The galaxy of the shadow system also expanded instantly. When the whole body was completely wrapped in the black mist, the surrounding area turned into a night scene. After a slight breath, Tang Mao finally broke through to the high level third level of the shadow system. The shadow system took the lead in breaking through to the high level third level, which was really something he had never expected. After all, the space system and the fire system had already shown signs of breakthroughs, but until now, they have not been able to successfully break through. Instead, it was the shadow system that broke through in a muddle. But no matter what, it is a good thing for me to break through. Immediately, Tang Mao followed the track of the dark corrosive force left by Lenking and tracked it. He was very fast, with the wings of wind and the instant movement, and in the blink of an eye, he came to the trial of the demon city. Then, he followed the breath, and sneaked directly into the interior of the trial. With the shadow cloak and the current shadow system energy, His black magic infiltration was not noticeable to ordinary people. Even some superclass mages would find it difficult to notice when he had no killing intention. All the way to where Lenking was, he suddenly appeared, but Lenking's assistant was shocked. She turned around and saw Tang Mao appear silently, covering her mouth and said, You, what do you mean? How is Lenking? Tang Mao interrupted her directly and then looked at the closed door and asked. Ling was also surprised how Tang Mao came in. After all, she was asking her assistant to wait for him. Unexpectedly, he came in. However, after hearing Tang Mao asking her sister, Ling shook her head with some disappointment. Then she said, the healing mage of the Judgment Association said that the situation is not optimistic. The dark corrosive power is too strong. If the dark power cannot be removed, even if the life can be saved, the sister will be a useless person in the future. Speaking of which, I followed the dark element to find it. Tang Mao nodded. If it weren't for the dark power in Lenking, he really couldn't find this place so quickly. Not to mention that, because of the rush to come in, the eldest daughter and the stupid son didn't bother to take it back. Can you see the dark power left by the killer? Ling was a little surprised, and then asked, where is the killer? I killed him. This killer is indeed very special, but my mental power has reached level 8, and his specialness is useless in front of me. Without his innate power, killing him is actually just killing a high-level magician. Tang Mao replied. Listening to what Tang Mao said, Assistant Lenking was shocked again. She didn't know how many times she was surprised today. You killed him? Ling paused, as if she thought of something, and then said, since you can see this dark energy, can you try to absorb the damage left on your sister? If it was before, Tang Mao could tell Ling with certainty no. But now, he thought he could try. Although it was the damage left by Bijiang, his shadow system had been perfectly integrated by himself, so his ability might really be able to be solved by himself. Gather. At this moment, the woman who was in charge of the trial came out and said regretfully, I tried my best to rescue her, but the power of the shadow system is too weird. I can only guarantee that she is fine now, but in the future. Before she finished speaking, Tang Mao walked in directly. Hey, Lenking needs to rest now. What are you doing? The woman looked at Tang Mao and rushed in without saying a word and wanted to stop him. At this time, Ling said, don't stop him. He may have a way to save my sister. The woman paused and felt a little ridiculous. But Lenking is a chief judge after all, and their grandfather is also a big boss. So she said, if something goes wrong, I won't care. After leaving this sentence, the woman left. Tang Mao came to Lenking, and the dark energy visible to the naked eye was constantly eroding her body. He immediately tried to extract it from her body. Don't say it. Originally just with a try mentality. As a result, the dark energy left in her body was really absorbed by herself continuously. After seeing the effect, Tang Mao was not polite and his hands wandered on Lenking's body. Of course, this time, he was just trying to save Lenking, without any distractions. However, he knew that he didn't have any other thoughts, but Ling and Lenking's assistant who followed him in saw this scene, and felt that Tang Mao was too beastly. Especially Ling was ready to kick him. Chapter 440 Treatment. Cough 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 cough. At this moment, Lenking, who was originally pale and weak, suddenly started to cough dryly. Hearing this dry cough, Lenking's assistant's first reaction was to find the healing woman just now. Ling put away her feet and came to the side. She couldn't help but ask, Tang Mao, you are not taking advantage of my sister, right? Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly, and he said dissatisfiedly, I'm so serious about saving your sister. How can you think of me like this? Am I that kind of person? Can you save my sister? Ling directly ignored his words and asked excitedly, I can indeed absorb the dark energy in her body. Tang Mao nodded and responded. After most of the dark energy was absorbed, Lenking slowly opened her eyes and woke up. The moment she woke up, she felt a hand wandering around. That is, she is extremely weak now, otherwise her first reaction would definitely be a slap. After seeing Ling and Tang Mao standing beside her with worried faces, Lenking said, what time is it, you bastard? You still want to take advantage of me? Her voice was a little weak and hoarse. However, Tang Mao still heard this sentence clearly. Fuck you, it was the first time that Tang Mao felt that she was more wronged than Dowie. She was really absorbing the dark corrosive energy in her body. Why did her sister also look suspicious after her sister's suspicion? Does she look like a person without bottom line? Even if he really wanted to take advantage, it was when he was intact. At this time, what he could do was not human. Fortunately, little Ling Ling was still clear and said, "Sister, bear with it for a while. He is not taking advantage of you. He is absorbing the dark corrosive power left in your body." Ling Ling also felt it. With Tang Mao's operation, she felt that she was no longer in such pain. After hearing Ling Ling's words, she asked puzzledly, "How is the killer?" "I killed him." Tang Mao is not the kind of petty person. Seeing Ling Ling asking, he responded. This casual sentence of killing made Ling Ling a little dumbfounded. She looked at Tang Mao with some disbelief. She didn't underestimate Tang Mao, but the killer's magic was too weird. She really didn't expect that Tang Mao could kill him. You know, even she couldn't do it. Why do you think I can't kill him? Seeing Ling Ling's disbelief, Tang Mao asked dissatisfiedly, "How did you do it?" As the dark power was constantly sucked out, Ling Ling spoke more and more smoothly, but his voice was still a little small. With mental power, Tang Mao said nonsense casually. At this time, the healing magician just came over. Just then, Tang Mao also absorbed all the dark power in her body. The dark power in Deputy Judge Ling Ling is gone. The woman looked at Ling Ling in disbelief, and then looked at Tang Mao and said, "To be honest, when Tang Mao broke in just now, no matter how she thought, she didn't think that this young man could save Ling Ling. After all, he was too young. But I didn't expect that he could do it just by going out for a while." Then, she used the healing system to treat Ling Ling's external injuries. This time, he was not corroded. Ling Ling also recovered. Of course, because of the exhaustion of magic energy, she was still very weak. In the following time, because she had to treat other wounds, Tang Mao was driven out. On the chair next to the colorful swimming pool, a beautiful woman in a bathrobe was lying on it, with a pair of bright light golden eyes staring at the gray sky of Guangzhou. Humph, this is the unprecedented master of the killer hall, which really makes me look at him with new eyes. The purple-eyed boy walked down and threw the fragments of the humble craftsman's skull that his men had picked up in front of the woman. "Dead." The woman with golden pupils said in surprise. "It seems that there is a reason why Seren fell into this kid's trap. I underestimated him." The purple-eyed boy said. "Sir, what should we do next?" The beautiful woman knew that the boy in front of her was very angry, so she was extremely careful even when asking questions. "Act in advance, let's go." The purple-eyed boy said in a very cold voice. "What about the list Ling Ling got and her knowledge of our mission? Should we send our people to take action?" The beautiful woman said with some concern. "What she knows is just the tip of the iceberg. Let her go first. Although there may be trouble, are you just here to eat dry food?" The purple-eyed boy said disdainfully. As for the people on the list, Ling Ju was obviously ready to give up. Although losing these men was not what he wanted. However, as long as the plan to confer the gods this time was successful, then everything would be worth it. They stayed in the Monster City Judgment Hall for 3 days. After 3 days, Ling Ling was safe and sound before they left here. After leaving here, Tang Mao took Ling Ling back to Yuxu Town, while Ling Ling went with Mo Fan and Zhao Manan to deal with the traitor. Of course, what Ling Ju didn't know was that Ling Ling didn't know what their mission was. Tang Mao thought that the other party would definitely attack Ling Ling, so he brought Ling Ling to his own territory. Yuxu Town, guarded by Bora, Zuansh, and Baksha, can be regarded as a top safe area in China. On the 5th day after returning, Xiao Zheng suddenly called. It seemed that he needed his help because of the problem in the sea area. He seemed to have noticed something wrong, but at the moment, he couldn't deploy enough troops near the Chinese sea area. And just when he learned about the East China Sea Magic Association, he immediately invited Tang Mao to help guard the sea area of Modu and Hangzhou. He didn't refuse this. Because, if I remember correctly, something will happen in the sea area in the next few days. Moreover, Qifu's undead will also arrive at the same time. However, he can only manage one side. As for the other side, it can only rely on Mo Fan and others and Zhen Kang. As for Ling Ling, Tang Mao is ready to take him with him. She has recovered now. Although she still wants to continue the work of the Inquisition and wants to arrest Leng Ju, she was rejected by Tang Mao. Although so many days have passed, the message has been delivered, and the Black Church has suffered huge losses, but this does not mean that Leng King is safe. Chapter 441, Totem Power Thunder Super Level. Before reappearing, Tang Mao came to the place where the Moon Moth Phoenix was. Because it entered the reincarnation, its original totem power would dissipate between heaven and earth, and today is the time to absorb it, so he naturally would not miss it. When Yu Shishi saw Tang Mao coming, she was full of shame and anger, and she looked like she would fight to the end. When she saw Tang Mao rushing straight to the place where the Moon Moth Phoenix was, Yu Shishi was relieved. However, she was a little puzzled. This bastard didn't come here to torment her? With doubts, Yu Shishi followed Tang Mao to the pupa of the Moon Moth Phoenix. Neither of them spoke until Yu Shishi couldn't help it and said, "What are you going to do? If you want to torture me, hurry up." Tang Mao paused, looked back at Yu Shishi, and felt a little funny and said, "Are you addicted? Get out." "Who is addicted? Do you think everyone is as beady as you?" Yu Shishi was so angry. It was because she couldn't resist, otherwise, would she let him do whatever he wanted? However, it will happen eventually. Since she can't avoid it, Yu Shishi naturally wants to start early and end early. But she didn't expect Tang Mao to say that. In an instant, Yu Shishi was furious. She even wanted to fight her to the death. Well, Yu Shishi, who is self-aware, finally endured it. "I'm not here to play with you today. I'm here to absorb the power of the totem abandoned by the Moon Moth Phoenix reincarnation." Looking at the little demon girl who wanted to bite him to death, Tang Mao explained again. Yu Shishi finally understood, and while she was relieved, she also felt a little inexplicably lost. Question mark? To be honest, after realizing what she was thinking, Yu Shishi almost hid in the hole in the ground in shame. I have to say that she became a little strange. I don't know when it started. When she thought of herself like this, Yu Shishi was instantly ashamed and angry again. Tang Mao chose to ignore her strange appearance. After all, whether it is an ordinary woman, a magician, or a demon girl, her temper is originally weird. Until the evening, the night was clear. A full moon hung alone in the sky. Its brilliance fell on the crescent moon mountain without a trace of haziness, and sprinkled on the dancing kinge, so the whole crescent moon mountain looked like a mountain with fluorescent light, which was particularly beautiful from a distance. Tang Mao sat next to a large pupa, which was the degeneration of the Moon Moth Phoenix after the battle. Many totem creatures are passed down from generation to generation, and it can even be said that they are actually the same for thousands of years. When their lives are coming to an end, they will self-degenerate, return to the time when they were just born, and slowly grow again, including those memories that have faded. The Moon Moth Phoenix is such a totem. Its body and soul are now covered with scars. It has only endured pain for many years, and it seems to be waiting for a liberation. When the fluorescence floated out, Tang Mao hurriedly absorbed it. After the totem power of the Moon Moth Phoenix flowed into the Killing Jade, it immediately poured into his body. Tang Mao hesitated for a while, and finally poured this majestic energy into the galaxy of the Thunder System, and then began to break through. That's right. His thunder system has already reached a high level, although he wanted to make all the magic systems break through at the beginning. However, think carefully, his thunder system is already so strong, destroying the first existence. In this case, why not take advantage of the current opportunity to break through to the super level in one fell swoop? As long as the thunder system reaches a super level, his strength will undergo a leap. Moreover, after the thunder system reaches a super level, with the power after demonization, he can be sure that even the emperor can fight. Tang Mao's breakthrough did not guard against Yu Shishi next to him. Of course, he did not trust her. But when he came, Bora had been following him. If Yu Shishi has any improper behavior, it would be her own death. The totem guardian is almost dispensable in front of him, the totem master. With the injection of majestic power, the star sea of the thunder system began to expand continuously. The same 343 stars are also getting stronger. Break. I don't know how many times I have attacked this barrier. Fortunately, the power of the totem is sufficient, and fortunately my thunder system has been cultivated to perfection. Otherwise, it might be impossible to break through the super level with only this little totem power. Boom boom. I don't know when it started. The moon snow town was covered with dark clouds, and thunder and lightning appeared continuously. The thunder kept resounding in the sky, and the deafening sound made everyone in the moon snow town tremble with fear. They were all very curious. What happened? And Yushishi, who was next to Tangmao, hid in the big pupa of the moon moth phoenix, so she was not affected. As for the moths, they left here long ago. There is no way. This place is too dangerous. I don't know how this human is so terrifying, so terrible. The power of the thunder element nearby was almost completely absorbed by him. Even Boro was shocked. Having lived for 1,000 years, this was the first time he encountered such a powerful thunder system. He knew very well that Tangmao's current higher level magic was equivalent to the power of the super level. If he broke through the super level in the future, what would happen? Even if he was no longer a demon, what level of destructive power would he reach? However, as Tangmao became stronger, he was also happy from the bottom of his heart. You know, Tangmao is his master. When the master becomes extremely powerful, how can he, as a younger brother, not be happy? The thunder is still continuing, and at this moment, the thunder has begun to fall irregularly. Wherever the thunder falls, a huge deep pit will be formed. Just looking at it makes people feel numb. After a while, the area around here was already in a mess. Fortunately, this thunder did not last too long. After a while of destruction, it suddenly dissipated. After the dark clouds dispersed, Yushishi dared to walk out carefully. To be honest, she had never thought that someone would break through and there would be such a terrible scene. At this time, Tangmao also opened his eyes with fullness. At this moment, his thunder system has successfully changed from the galaxy to a wider sea of stars. The number of stars has increased to 2,401. That's right, he is already a superclass mage. Moreover, he is a thunder superclass mage with great destructive power. Even though he has not been able to cast thunder superclass magic, his strength has increased exponentially with the breakthrough. As for the violent and destructive thunder just now, it was the change of the purple thunder in his body. Tangmao can clearly feel that the purple thunder now seems to have shown its original power. Maybe it is because of this that it is now extremely beating. However, Tangmao, who is already a superclass mage, can naturally control it easily. It is not to let it release wantonly. This is not the time when the intermediate level breaks through to the high level and cannot be controlled. You broke through? At this time, Yushishi came over and looked at Tangmao with some surprise. Normally, a person in his 30s breaking through to the super level is already a shocking news. However, who would have thought that Tangmao had already surpassed the level before he was 25? From the time he awakened magic to now, it has only been 10 years, and he has already broken through to the super level mage. Even some geniuses in the aristocratic families cannot compare with him. Do you want to kneel down and lick me? He stretched his shins and looked at Yushishi. Get lost. Yushishi was originally very happy for him, but when she heard this, she was instantly unhappy. Yushishi said that she had never seen such a sly person. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 442, Rising Sea Level. Because of the urgency of time, he did not talk about love with Yushishi. Instead, he left here directly. Of course, before leaving, Yushishi was responsible for restoring this place. After arriving at Yuxu Town, Tangmao saw Muningsu. What happened just now? Seeing that Tangmao was safe and sound, Muningsu was relieved and asked. Nothing, just broke through a realm of the thunder system, Tangmao said with a smile. You broke through to the super level? Muningsu was shocked when she heard it. She really didn't expect that Tangmao would break through to the super level so quickly. You know, after the experience of the national government, her cultivation growth speed was fast enough, but compared with Tangmao, there was obviously still a big gap. If I'm not good enough, how can I love you? Tangmao said. Muningsu paused and said helplessly, "Don't be so funny. I heard that Ling Ling and the other two went to pursue Cardinal Lengju. Aren't you going to help them?" Tang Mao shook his head and then said, "It's not that I won't go, but I can't go. Right now, Magic City, Hangzhou and Arfinio City all need guards. The sea surface has become increasingly unbalanced recently, and it seems that there will be a high tide at any time. If it was just a flood, it would be fine, but he knew very well that this time, it was not just the power of nature. More importantly, the sea monster is coming. Any Chinese city that is close to the sea will suffer a very terrifying ocean impact. Xiao Zheng's strategic deployment is correct, but it's a pity that it has not been implemented and has not received any help. In short, the root of this world is bad. It can even be said that it is very bad. Tang Mao cannot protect all the cities in the sea area, but he can still try his best to protect Finio City and the neighboring Magic City and Hangzhou. Of course, in fact, he also knows that even with the help of Zuanshan Baksha, he may not really be able to face this disaster. After all, these are not tens of thousands of sea monsters, but hundreds of thousands or even millions, or even more. Magic City, Pudong District. When he brought Lenking here, he saw that the sea level had begun to rise continuously. Fortunately, this is Magic City, and the military defense is very strong, so the city was not submerged by the sea. Because Tang Mao was invited by Xiao Zheng, after arriving here, he took over the position of commander-in-chief here. The original Maran and Wang Mo became his assistants. Both of them are veteran generals who have experienced hundreds of battles. Suddenly, a boy who is still wet behind the ears in their eyes came, which naturally made them very unhappy. In the land camp in the sea area, Commander-in-Chief, I wonder what you think of the current situation? General Maran looked at Tang Mao and said in a calm voice, "No opinion, just strength and vigilance in recent days. In addition, I brought a helper." Tang Mao naturally heard the dissatisfaction in the other party's tone, but since Xiao Zheng personally begged, he would not give up directly. Hearing this, Wang Mo looked at Tang Mao curiously and said, "Oh, I wonder where the commander-in-chief's helper is." Tang Mao pointed to the Beizar mini turtle that suddenly appeared on his shoulder and said, "That's it." The two old generals were stunned. When they were about to say something, Beizar suddenly released his momentum. After feeling the power of its supreme monarch, the contempt on the faces of the two old generals instantly disappeared. Soldiers also speak with strength. Is this the totem that the speaker mentioned? After all, Wang Mo has lived for a long time, and he immediately revealed the identity of Beizar. That's right. I should have brought the black snake with me, but in order to prevent Hangzhou from getting into trouble, I'll let it go to Hangzhou to guard it. Tang Mao nodded. So you are the kid who is looking for the totem. Haha, no wonder the speaker asked you to be the commander-in-chief. Maran's attitude obviously changed. A powerful totem, or a supreme monarch, such a totem beast can indeed reduce a lot of burden for them. General Ma, I don't have much command experience. All I can do is help you. You can still follow your command, but Baksha told me that there are already a large number of sea monsters in the sea area coming here. They are not scattered, but there are more powerful monsters commanding them. Baksha can't make them retreat just by momentum. So next, there should be a tough battle to fight. Tang Mao knew that time was urgent, and he didn't hide it. He directly told the two people the news that Baksha had noticed. Hearing this, the two old generals were stunned. General Ma was puzzled and said, "But before this, our people also conducted a reconnaissance. There is no problem in the nearby sea area." He didn't disbelieve Tang Mao or Baksha. It's just that not long ago, they saw the sea level rising continuously, and they had already sent their scouts to patrol. Bang! Hoo-ah-ha-ha. At this moment, a sudden sound of waves crashing came out. At the same time, a soldier rushed in and said, "It's bad. The sea level is rising rapidly, and the waves are constantly impacting our defense formation." Hearing this, the two old generals were stunned. The Beizar on Tang Mao's shoulder left here the moment the soldier finished speaking. Tang Mao stood up and said, "Two old generals, tell them that Beizar is our own people. In addition, strengthen the vigilance. I think the sea monsters will show up soon." Yes. The two old generals believed it at this time. Although they didn't know what went wrong, it was still important to defend the coastline. After the three left here, they came to the newly built dam. At this time, the light magician team, thousands of light magicians were strengthening the defense of the formation. On the sea, the waves were surging, and the waves were constantly condensing, and there was a feeling of impact at any time. Hua la hua hua hua. Just as Tang Mao was observing, huge waves suddenly formed, and then rushed straight to the protective formation and hit it. At this moment, Beiza's huge body suddenly emerged. The moment the waves came crashing down, it was smashed by it. That's right, it smashed the waves. Some military mages were shocked when they saw Baksha suddenly appearing. Fortunately, the two old generals gave orders quickly, so they didn't have to draw the star map and launch a bombing. After Baksha stopped the waves, he roared at the sea surface! Chapter 443 The Siren Attacks. This huge roar instantly calmed the sea surface. Just when everyone thought that Beiza's roar solved the problem, the originally calm sea surface suddenly gathered again, as if it was going to launch a tsunami. The area is too large, and it is obviously impossible to stop it by Beiza alone. Once it is covered by seawater, then everything will be over. After all, mages, water battles have never been outstanding. After all, although there are sea monsters in the sea area, they are still a minority. The biggest problem they face has always been the monsters on land. However, today is different. What they have to face is the sea monsters that have not appeared. If it is not a monarch level monster that can roll up such a huge tsunami, it means that the sea monsters that have come to the magic city are definitely a huge number. At this time, Ma Leo, who is an ice superclass, immediately organized the military mages with ice to freeze the terrifying waves. Under the power of the crowd, the waves that were originally raised turned into glaciers at a speed visible to the naked eye. When everyone just breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly, the ice layer broke with a bang, and a huge hole was directly broken. This hole can even accommodate a mountain. Even the huge body of Beiza can enter the sea through it. Seeing this, Wang Lao on the dam frowned. When the ice layer was just broken, he clearly felt a powerful demonic breath! Puff puff. Puff puff. At this time, one after another in the sea jumped out of the huge ice hole. Although the figures that jumped out were very huge, they were insignificant compared to this huge ice hole. But the number of these densely packed figures made the military magicians here feel scalp numb. Ma Leo, who was below, hurriedly said, "Quick, retreat to the dam." In the blink of an eye, sea fish monsters, water monsters, scalefish monsters, and even some sea monsters whose names were unknown, swish 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 continued to pour out. Some rushed directly to the military mages who cast the ice seal, and some stood on the ice layer and destroyed the ice layer. At the moment, there were already thousands of sea monsters, and the sea monsters were still appearing in the ice hole. Among the military mages here, in addition to this, there were only 2 high-level mages who led the army, and the rest were all mid-level mages. And these sea monsters are more common war general level monsters, and there are so many of them. If there is such a conflict, the casualties will definitely be a terrifying number. Ma Leo looked at the monsters that were killing with their fangs and claws, and casually drew an ice constellation. For him, a super level mage, the speed of releasing high level magic is also quite fast. Ice coffin. Dang, dang, dang. As several ice coffins fell, the hundreds of sea monsters in the front turned into ice crystal fragments in the blink of an eye. The Baksha, who was also nearby, also moved. It felt that it was provoked! As a top monarch, how could it be ignored by these little warlord level sea monsters? How could it tolerate it? It jumped up and came to the front. With a breath, hundreds of sea monsters were washed away. With a casual move, dozens of sea monsters were blasted to pieces. Seeing the power of Baksha, the military magicians on the dam were very glad that this was not a demon that threatened people. Otherwise, it was really unimaginable how terrible the casualties would be. With the display of Baksha, although there were still sea monsters appearing at the ice hole, they had no intention of rushing over. On the dam, Tang Mao felt a little strange. Although these sea monsters did not continue to charge, they had no intention of stopping the ice breaking. Moreover, at this time, the originally frozen sea surface had been destroyed by more than half, and the sea area reappeared in front of everyone. And the waves continued to roll up, as if they wanted to set off a new wave. The sea level rises a little every year, which is a normal phenomenon, but for some reason, they found something wrong. Unfortunately, not everyone pays attention to these things. However, it is useless to think too much at the moment. After all, things have already happened. Hua hua hua. At this moment, the seawater suddenly rolled up again. Woo, woo, woo. Then, a strange and loud voice came from under the sea. After this roar, the sirens who had stayed on the sea surface launched a charge again. Thousands or even tens of thousands of sirens stepped on the waves and broke through the ice, which looked extremely terrifying. At the same time, the defensive military commanders in various places immediately issued the order to attack. The military mages each drew a star map and used water magic, ice magic, and lightning magic. As long as they could exert lethal power, they all began to bombard without reservation. The bombing of a group battle is naturally much more powerful and terrifying than the power exerted by an individual. However, this group of sea monsters advanced fearlessly one by one. Even if a large number of them sank to the bottom of the sea, there were still follow-up charges. Although the bombing of the military mages took 2 turns, it still did not stop the sea monsters from advancing. Bezier saw that his pressure did not make these small war general level monsters retreat, and his huge body jumped up. The ice surface was instantly shaken. Then, it fell straight to the place where the ice hole was like a huge meteorite. Bezier knew very well that there was also a monarch level creature there. Otherwise, how could these little monsters dare to be so presumptuous? So it didn't choose to waste its energy here, but directly prepared to capture the king first. As Baksha fell like a meteorite, the remaining ice layer of the ice hole also fell apart in an instant. The nearby sea monsters were even more shattered by this huge body. After Baksha blocked the huge hole, Marleo also came to the front. He still wanted to freeze the sea. He knew very well that, as long as this piece was frozen, the advantages of the sea monster would be lost a lot. Similarly, the military mage also had a lot of output power. However, although the idea was good, he only relied on himself. Even if he was a super class mage, how could he freeze the sea easily if he wanted to? Bang bang bang. Just as he cast the spell, the ice layer suddenly burst open, and then several long tentacles suddenly broke through the ice and attacked the body. After seeing this scene, Tangmyo hurriedly moved in front of him. With a condensation of his palm, the thunderbolt condensed into an electric blade, and then he directly chopped at the tentacle that was rushing towards him. Tangmyo's control was originally very strong, and with the special ability of the domain, his magic was no longer the regular Thunder Seal, Thunderbolt, and Silent Thunder Deathlight. But before the super level, it was not so easy to use, and after crossing this threshold, everything changed. The magic used is almost no longer qualitative. Similarly, there are also elementary, intermediate, and advanced levels. It just depends on how much power you inject. Of course, this actually still needs to be described with the help of star tracks, star maps, and constellations. But the power is far stronger than the prescribed magic. Tangmyo gathered thunder into a blade. Puchy. With a sound, he directly cut off a tentacle. However, when the huge move was cut off, suddenly a sea python rushed out from it, and they opened their bloody mouths and bit Tangmyo. Thundernet. Seeing this, Tangmyo hurriedly retreated, and at the same time, the thunder marks were linked into a huge net. Boom boom. When the sea pythons hit it, they immediately turned into ashes and disappeared in front of them. Hundreds of sea sirens of the general level were killed. After dealing with a tentacle, Tangmyo looked at Marleo, only to see that he had been forced to stop freezing the ice and was dealing with the rest of the tentacles. It seemed that, after seeing the first tentacle that Tangmyo chopped off, many sea pythons appeared. He did not choose to use wind magic to chop it off, but chose to freeze it. But because of the relationship between Tangmyo and the tentacle monster of unknown creature, the sea sirens of the general level finally had the opportunity to show themselves. One by one, they rushed straight to the embankment outside the Anji. Seeing this, Wang Lao, who was still on the embankment, hurriedly organized the military mages to continue the new bombing. However, the number of military mages on the embankment at the moment was obviously not enough to deal with such a battle. After all, the number of these sea sirens was too many. He suddenly felt that it was a wise decision to obey the order at the beginning. Exclamation mark. Chapter 444, Thunder of Destruction. The original Ice Layer, under the bombardment of the mid-level magic of the military mages, soon began to show cracks. Although everyone knew that the Ice Layer could not be destroyed, otherwise the sirens would be unstoppable, it was clear. However, with so many sirens rushing over, who could control their own output power, the bombardment of the military mages did not actually cause the actual death of the sirens. There was no way, as mid-level magicians were mostly fire-based, and at sea, the role that the fire system could play was almost zero. Although the thunder system was more lethal than the fire system, if the thunder system was so common, could it be the strongest elemental magic? The dam was in flames, and the same was true for the frozen central area. Tang Mao and General Ma, until now, have only been dealing with the huge tentacles and the sirens that occasionally emerged from the tentacles. Moreover, the most troublesome thing is that the creatures underneath are like tentacle monsters, and it is almost impossible to completely destroy them. However, through this battle, General Ma was convinced by Tang Mao in front of him. Although Tang Mao used high-level magic, General Ma was sure that he was definitely a superclass magician. What shocked him even more was Tang Mao's lightning magic. Some of them were obviously just high-level magic, but they exerted the power of superclass magic, which was really shocking. Old General, we must break the ice, otherwise the magic energy will not be able to support it if we continue to consume it like this, Tang Mao said as he looked at the tentacles that continued to emerge. General Ma was silent for a moment, then frowned and said, if we break the ice, I'm afraid the pressure on the dam will be even greater. Tang Mao was naturally aware of this, but if he didn't break the ice to deal with the tentacle monster, the ice would still be broken after the magic was consumed. And just when he was silent, the ice hole suddenly exploded. The broken ice rushed directly into the sky, and then the huge figure of Bazir emerged on the sea surface, and at the same time, two equally huge demons appeared here at the same time. How is this possible? How could there be a whale demon here? Looking at the two huge demons that suddenly appeared, General Ma trembled, and said with some fear, just by looking at the huge bodies of these two whale demons, it can be confirmed that these are two monarch level demons. Two monarchs! Exclamation mark. Moreover, judging from the sense of oppression and momentum, they are all demons at the level of great monarchs. No wonder Baksha couldn't take advantage of them, even when he fell from the sky. After the two whale demons emerged, they looked at the powerful Baksha in front of them and roared. They were all demons, but they really didn't understand why this powerful demon stood on the side of the tiny human beings. In response to the questioning of the two whale demons, Baksha's claws full of destructive power slapped them directly. Although it can't exert its true strength now, but it is at least at the level of the Supreme Monarch. 1 against 2 is not a big deal. Bang, bang. The great demons who have reached the level of monarchs don't need any fancy skills. Even just physical combat is enough to collapse mountains and crack the earth, overturn rivers and seas. The collision of the three monarchs caused the entire sea area nearby to roll up. The glacier that had been frozen with great difficulty before was directly submerged by the surging sea water. The submerged ice layer soon turned into pieces of ice. The efforts to stop it after so much hard work were wasted. At the feet of Tang Mao and General Ma, the tentacles were attracted in an instant. Then, with a boom, an octopus that was also as big as a mountain floated on the water. It was unknown what kind of creature this huge octopus was, but it seemed to have 40 or 50 tentacles. In order to verify his idea, Tang Mao threw a thunderball. Seeing this, the big octopus waved its tentacles to resist. Boom. A thunderous sound came out, and the 4 or 5 tentacles of the big octopus, which looked very strong, were instantly smashed to pieces. But after the hundreds of sea monsters appeared, its tentacles immediately returned to their original appearance. What the hell is this thing, and what ability does it have? The old general said in shock. It is obvious that this is an octopus. As for what it is, who knows? However, judging from the fact that some of its tentacles did not release the sirens just now, it seems that it cannot produce them. Instead, they were placed in the tentacles in advance. What is certain is that this is also a monarch creature. The old general curled his lips when he heard this. How could he not know that this is a monarch level creature? He just wanted to know if the other party has any weaknesses. However, if you think about it carefully, he, who has lived for so many years, does not know. So how can Tang Mao know? At this time, the huge octopus moved, and dozens of tentacles slapped on the sea surface together. In an instant, the seawater turned up, and a huge tsunami rushed towards the dam. Tang Mao hurriedly summoned the Snow Girl fusion. Now that he is a super class magician, the Snow Girl who merged in will not suppress him. At that moment, the old general who was mobilizing the ice element felt a gloomy and piercing feeling coming. Turning his head, he saw that Tang Mao was absorbing the ice element power nearby. Ice peaks thousands of miles. With the cooperation of the Snow Girl, the waves that had just broken through the ice began to freeze again. Bang, 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 bang. Seeing this, the octopus's powerful tentacles kept hitting the ground. The ice that had just frozen was directly broken under the impact of the waves. Moreover, the tentacles of the big octopus swung over. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Purple sky, wild thundermark. Seeing the tentacles extending in front of him, the dense lightning and the dark clouds above suddenly struck down. It bombarded directly at the dozens of tentacles. Boom, 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 boom. As the wild thunder bombarded its tentacles, the current went straight to the sea surface. However, this time even his thunder failed to smash the octopus tentacles. The old general on the side was a little puzzled about Tang Mao's strength. After all, his thunder system was very strong just now. How come he couldn't even break the defense at this time? Just when he was about to make a move, he saw Tang Mao become a constellation again. Giant thunderstorm. After seeing the lightning spread over a large area of the sea, Tang Mao attacked again. High-level magic, when used well, is equivalent to the power of the super level. Before he was promoted, the destructive power of high-level magic was already equivalent to the power of the super level. After breaking through the super level, this high-level magic can be said to have completely surpassed the power of some super level mages. When the lightning power poured into the seawater, an area as large as a football field was instantly flooded with lightning. Gurgle gurgle. Boom boom boom. The muffled thunder in the water exploded, and the sound of thunder was not weaker than the feeling of exploding in the air. The violent destructive thunder exploded in the water. Almost in an instant, thousands of sea monsters underwater were blown away by puff puff puff, and the tentacles of the giant octopus were instantly blown away by the thunder! Exclamation mark. Ah! A strange scream almost spread throughout the sea. General Ma, who was about to draw the Star Palace, looked at the blood-red ocean below and froze there. The Star Palace also dissipated instantly. Looking at Tang Mao, who was breathing slightly there, the old general widened his eyes and said, This, old general, my thunder system has received the God Seal of Parthenon. Tang Mao was also a little surprised at the power of his two magic bombings, but when the old general looked over, he still patiently explained. The old general is not a fool. If it is just the God Seal of Praise, it is absolutely impossible to produce such power. This is probably a seed of heaven. He really didn't expect that Tang Mao, at such an age, already had something that these old guys wanted. Young people are formidable. Finally, the old general sighed slightly. Don't sigh, old general, the demon is not dead yet. After reminding the old general, Tang Mao moved the wind wings behind him and flew towards the seriously injured octopus. Although all the tentacles were shattered, the tentacles of the giant octopus soon recovered. However, the speed was not as fast as expected. It recovered one by one. Chapter 445 Heavy Damage. Then, Tang Mao rushed towards the big octopus. At this moment, the octopus with few tentacles did not lose its resistance. A huge mouth as thick as a pipe suddenly ejected a huge wave. Seeing the power of the huge wave, the two of them simultaneously used the wind wings to protect. However, they still underestimated the impact of the huge wave. Even Tang Mao's automatic ice defense emerged, but he was still washed to the rear until he landed on the ground of the embankment and stopped. As for Moleo, he was not much better. It seemed that he was washed into the sea. Although this impact force had his own wind and ice defense, it still made him feel sore all over. The monarch level demon is indeed not so easy to deal with. After stretching his tibia, Tangmao took off again. A drill condensed in his hand, and the domain power of the extreme cold ice and the zero ice combined into one was all poured into it. Ice rotating water dragon drill. Then, Kinshuo aimed at the octopus that was recovering its tentacles and threw it directly. The rotating drill bit, at the moment of casting, turned into a huge ice dragon. Wherever the ice dragon passed, hail fell. Fortunately, the hail fell in the sea, so the military magicians on the dam did not suffer any damage. As for the sea water that had just dissolved the ice, it condensed into ice again when the hail fell. Although it was not as thick as before, some sea monsters were still frozen and restricted their movements. Watching the ice dragon attack, the octopus monarch took a deep breath again. Then, the huge waves spurted out again, directly baptizing the ice dragon. The impact of the huge waves was so strong that even the ice dragon was quickly washed away. However, after the ice dragon's appearance was washed away, the drill bit started to rotate more fiercely. Moreover, the penetrating power of the explosion was even more terrifying. I saw that the huge wave with extremely strong impact force was actually split into two, and the rotating drill bit rushed straight to the head of the octopus monarch. The octopus monarch seemed to feel threatened, and immediately stretched out its tentacles, trying to intercept the water dragon drill, which was even more powerful than it. Unfortunately, its several huge tentacles, that had finally recovered, turned into ice sculptures the moment they touched the water dragon drill, and then snapped and dispersed. Although broken limbs can be regenerated, the pain is real. The octopus monarch kept howling in pain, and the newly appeared sea monsters in the sea stopped for a while. Seeing this, the two whale demons who were fighting with Bazire also retreated to the side. They also wanted to see if this tiny human could still defeat the octopus monarch. Boom. At this time, the water dragon drill also broke through all obstacles and hit the octopus monarch's head directly. Then a cold air spread out instantly. The strong cold air instantly turned all the water nearby into ice. And the sea monsters that had just emerged nearby were also unlucky and turned into ice sculptures one by one. Even those who were close to the octopus monarch were directly broken at the moment of being frozen. A huge cold air rushed into the sky, and a white mist was boundless. Tangmao stayed in the air a little exhausted, looking at the fluorescent stars floating over there, and then used the Killing Jade to collect them all. Although this wave of big moves consumed a lot, the harvest was worth it. He actually got more than 30 warrior level spirits at one time. Of course, there was only one complete spirit, and the rest were fused from the residual spirits. Knowing that the octopus monarch was not dead, Tangmao's ice attribute power dissipated instantly. The color in his eyes also changed to purple, and the crackling thunder condensed into a huge hammer in his hand. It was more than 10 meters long, and the hammer was full of explosive destructive thunder. Then, after moving in an instant, Tangmao came to the sky above the traumatized octopus monarch and smashed it directly with the hammer comparable to the super level second level magic. Boom. There was a thunderous explosion, and then the entire sea level directly rose by a height of tens of meters. Even the sirens in the sea area, because of this hammer, more than 1,000 people were killed or injured in an instant. The octopus monarch fell into the sea area. Although he was not killed, it is certain that this hammer must have caused him heavy damage. But Tangmao did not have time to catch up and give it a fatal blow. Because the situation on the dam is very bad. At this time, the sirens have begun to climb the dam, and most of the military mages have been killed or injured. Although the sirens have also been killed or injured in more than 10,000, they really can't hold on like this. Immediately, he went back to the dam. When Bazire wanted to go back to help, he was entangled by two whale demons again. The two great monarchs were very smart not to fight with Bazire to the death, and it was clear that they wanted to entangle it. This is also the main reason why Bazire has not suffered any damage until now, and the other party has not suffered any damage. When Tangmao arrived at the dam, he released 7 types of magic, including thunder, fire, ice, sandstorm, shadow sword, dimension gate, and space oppression. It was like he was fighting against a legion of 100 people. Moreover, His magic damage was not comparable to that of these military mages. There were only a few thousand sirens on the shore, and they were killed or injured in an instant after his bombing. Tang Mao's momentum of one man blocking the pass and 10,000 men unable to break through made the military mages who thought they were about to lose the battle excited. They didn't have enough magic power to cast intermediate magic, and even the elementary magic could be used to hit the sirens that were about to rush up. Seeing this, Wang Lao, who was covered in blood on the shore, was secretly surprised. Tang Mao was almost a perfect war machine. With this lethality, coupled with the countless magic systems, these sea monsters are really not a piece of cake. It is unknown how long it took before the sea monsters were repelled again, but this time, the military mages on the dam had exhausted their magic power one by one. Huahlaha. Just when the military mages on the dam were fighting bloody battles and had just won a brief victory, water spouts continued to surge out of the sea. It seemed that they realized that the strong attack was blocked, and the sea monster army was ready to rely on the impact of sea water to break the defense. Tang Mao's bombardment was very cool and powerful, but after such a long time, almost half of the magic power of each system had been consumed, and even the thunder and ice systems were almost at the bottom. When he saw the sea spout floating up, he really felt that he could not stand it. Just as Tang Mao was staring at the condensed sea spout in a daze, Wang Lao rushed to Tang Mao's side. The remaining people have almost exhausted their magic power, and ordinary people have been successfully transferred. Let's withdraw, otherwise, they will all die here in vain. Although Wang Lao was very unwilling, he knew that, if he continued to fight, the result would only be the annihilation of the whole army. Without magic power, the thousands of people here, that is, ordinary people, a few general level sea monsters, would be enough for them to kill them all. Moreover, the most important thing is that there is no reinforcement at the moment, and it is almost a pipe dream to resist the sea monsters that continue to emerge. After they die, the sea monsters will still break through the dam. The best way now is to withdraw from here, return to Anji to recuperate and wait for support. Otherwise these people will have to explain here in vain. Once we evacuate here, I'm afraid we will all become sea areas, and in the future we will be directly threatened by the sea monsters. Tang Mao also knew that without magic power and the protection of the barrier, if he stayed here, the final result would be death. However, he also knew that, if he gave up the dike, then this battle would be meaningless. Although it did buy a day for those who didn't have time to move here, so that they could leave this area. However, he really couldn't accept it, after persisting for so long, and watching Tang Mao helplessly. I know you are unwilling, and neither am I, but I can't let our people fight them hand to hand without magic power, Old Wang said emotionally. Tang Mao took a deep breath, and then said, you retreat first. After he finished speaking, his whole body suddenly became violent. Chapter 446 Reinforcement from Zenbui Pass. Hearing this, the old chief was immediately unhappy. Do you think I'm a coward? I just don't want these soldiers to die in vain. After roaring a few words, the old chief said weakly, Commander-in-Chief, now is not the time to be a hero. There is always a way to survive. Even if you still have magic power, how long can you resist so many sea monsters? I don't want to leave any regrets for myself. I will do my best. Tang Mao's blood was getting more and more violent at this time, and the devil's blood was ready to move. When the old chief Wang was about to say something, he suddenly felt a terrible feeling. The horror of this breath was not weaker than any demon present. Reinforcement. The reinforcement have arrived. Just when the old chief was shocked, and Tang Mao was about to turn into a demon, a call suddenly came. Hearing this, Tang Mao stopped and turned his head with the old chief beside him. I saw a troop of nearly 10,000 people rushing here. Judging from their momentum, there were more than 100 high-level mages alone. It's not that there are no high-level military mages in the demon city, but a place that a great demon has to guard is not just the sea area. Several other directions still need a large number of troops to guard. Moreover, the sea area has never been taken seriously, so the army here is actually the least. There are 2 old leaders, because Xiao Zheng transferred them despite everyone's opposition. Otherwise, there would be only a few high-level mages guarding the coastline. After seeing the reinforcement coming, the huge wave tornado that was originally terrifying didn't seem to be that terrifying. After the reinforcement arrived, they immediately changed guards. The strength of this army is obviously much stronger than the guards here. Even some mid-level mages are experienced people. After the change of guard, the new military mages began to deploy. Looking at the sea tornado condensing there, you can know that the situation here is indeed not optimistic. Report. Zenbiguan military control officer Chang Yi has been ordered to report. After the formation was set up, the commander of this army came over and saluted Wang Lao Shenzhen. After hearing that the man in front of him came from Zenbiguan, Tang Mao suddenly said, "Are you confused? Why did Zenbiguan transfer you here when it was in danger?" Hearing this, Chang Yi looked over. He frowned slightly. Although he didn't know who Tang Mao was and why he came here, he was also a military control officer. Moreover, how dare he interrupt in front of the old leader in front of him? The most important thing is that Chang Yi was very curious about how this young man in front of him knew about Zenbiguan. At this time, the old leader Wang explained, "Chang Yi, this is Tang Mao, the commander-in-chief of our Magic City coastline." Hearing this, Chang Yi was stunned and said in disbelief, "Old Wang, you are not kidding me, are you? Little Chang, do you think that I, an old man, am the kind of person who likes to joke?" The old leader Wang glared. Chang Yi then looked at Tang Mao awkwardly and reported, "I'm sorry, Commander-in-Chief. I didn't expect it. I know, I don't mean to blame you. Besides, I'm just here to help temporarily." Tang Mao waved his hand and didn't mind. After all, he was indeed a little too young and suddenly became the commander-in-chief. Not to mention Chang Yi, even he couldn't accept it. Chang Yi then responded, "When I came, I was really angry. But when I passed by the coastal area, I realized that the situation here was even worse. It's just that Zenbui Pass." Alas, Tang Mao looked at his lost look and then said, "Don't worry, Zenbui Pass will not be lost. There will be divine soldiers there. The coastline here must be defended at all costs." Chang Yi was stunned when he heard this, and he obviously didn't believe it. After all, the current situation is so bad that China's mobilized forces have probably been mobilized, right? The remaining military magicians are responsible for guarding the demon tribes in various places outside. Unless they are supported by other countries, if they are responsible, what divine soldiers will there be? Tang Mao didn't explain anything. Just at this time Len King came over. When she arrived here, Len King had been left in the military camp. Although she was a deputy chief judge, she had no right to get involved in such a large-scale war. After seeing the wounded being sent back one after another, she was really worried and rushed over. Chang Yi didn't stay here for long, but went to the embankment. As for Baksha, it was still entangled and couldn't get away. However, it was already doing very well, holding back 2 monarchs with 1 against 2. Otherwise, how could it be defended here? As for the old chief Ma who fell into the sea before, he was also seriously injured and unconscious and was taken away. At this moment, the octopus monarch who was hit and fell into the sea before and did not appear again screamed again! Exclamation mark. The sea surface, except for the sea tornado, suddenly appeared one after another sea monsters. Obviously, tens of thousands of sea monsters have been killed, but after a new batch of them appeared, people still feel numb. There are so many of them. At first glance, it seems that what is in front of you is not the sea water, but all the sea monsters. Old Chief Wang frowned and said, "What should we do? How can we resist so many sea monsters just by relying on us?" Tang Mao knew that, if he couldn't solve these monarchs, the endless sea monsters would be enough to defeat this place. He immediately looked at Len King and said, "Do you have any treasures that can restore magic power?" Len King's mouth twitched slightly, and he rolled his eyes at Tang Mao and said, "Why do you think I have this thing? Treasures that can restore magic power are absolutely astronomical. Moreover, this thing is almost priceless, and you can't have it just because you want it." Tang Mao also felt that his question was a bit redundant. Len King was not the foxy fox of Ashuruaya. As the saint of the Greek Parthenon, she had so many treasures on her body that people were jealous. Even if you restore your magic power, can you still solve these countless sea monsters? Old Chief Wang said with a sigh. Although the reinforcement have arrived, this team alone will not be able to play any absolute role. Judging from the fearless charge of these sea monsters, the other side clearly wants to destroy the dam here. As for casualties, the sea monster monarchs don't care at all. Didn't they see these general level and commander level sea monsters charging fearlessly one by one? Tang Mao clenched his fists and said, if my magic power can be fully restored, I can kill these 3 monarchs. Without their command, the remaining sea monsters will naturally retreat. If it weren't for the terrifying momentum of Tang Mao just now, when he said this, the old leader would have almost slapped him in the face and told him to wake up. But when he thought of the breath that made even this superclass mage tremble, the old chief couldn't help but feel itchy and asked, Commander-in-Chief, do you have any trump cards? Tang Mao had nothing to hide, so he said directly, do you know the demon system? It's the one that was banned after the military experiment. The old chief really knew more about it, but when he thought about it, he said, I know, and I have also participated in this mission. I have looked for the right person. However, because I was not sure about its efficacy, and I heard that many people turned into monsters after the experiment failed, I didn't find anyone to use it. Why are you talking about this? Because I'm that special case, the one who successfully integrated the demon system. Tang Mao didn't expect that the old chief in front of him actually knew it. Obviously, the identity of this old man is not simple. What did you say? Old Chief Wang, who had never had much emotional fluctuations, shouted in shock after hearing what Tang Mao said. Don't you know about the ancient capital? Looking at the old chief who was making a fuss, Tang Mao continued. I have heard about your glorious deeds, but no one has said anything about demons. Old Chief Wang shook his head. I was able to turn the tide in the ancient capital and resist the mountain corpse, because I was demonized at that time. Tang Mao briefly recounted the events of the ancient capital, and then said, but now, my magic power has almost reached the bottom. Even if I'm demonized, I can't exert 1/10 of my strength. Old Chief Wang took out a small box and said, if what you said is true, maybe this can help you. Chapter 447, One Claw, One Monarch. Looking at the blood scorpion in General Wang's hand, Tang Mao felt that the violent demon blood in his body was boiling instantly. It seemed that he was extremely eager for it. This old general, why do you still have this thing in your hand? It's not that he was suspicious, but shouldn't this thing be banned? Why is the old man in front of him still holding one in his hand? And, judging by the feeling, it seems to be much more powerful than the one he used. In other words, this blood scorpion may have appeared earlier than the one he used. When I was conducting the experiment, I didn't ask anyone to try it out, because I heard that after using this, a normal person might turn into a monster that only knows how to kill. The old general paused, and then continued, in the end, I just found a death row prisoner to replace my men. And then, it happened that the higher-ups ordered to ban this, and I originally planned to destroy it, but this thing also cost a huge amount of resources to build, so I finally left it behind. Tang Mao took it over, and felt that the demon system in his body became more and more excited. Seeing that the water tornado in the sea was about to erupt, he did not hesitate, and directly crushed the blood. When the blood was broken, a violent energy poured into his body. The magic power that was about to dry up suddenly recovered rapidly. Then, the snow girl was the main one, and the flame lady and the shadow demon tiger appeared on the left and right behind him. After the demonization, Tang Mao's momentum alone made the old general and Len King next to him retreat several steps. Although Tang Mao had heard about the power of the demon system, the old general really didn't expect it to be so strong. The old general could clearly feel that, if he took action, he would be torn to pieces in one round, right? Old general, you are only responsible for guarding the dam, and leave the rest to me. As soon as Tang Mao finished speaking, he suddenly exerted force on his feet, and jumped out with a bang. He flew out directly like a rocket. Before the two of them could react, they saw that he had already fallen into the seabed. At this time, in the deep sea, the giant octopus, which had restored its tentacles, was cooperating with thousands of sea monsters below to perform strange magic together, as if it was preparing to merge with a huge wave and wanted to destroy the dam in one breath. Tang Mao opened his sharp tiger claws, exuding the ultimate power of ice, and then swung his claws with a swish swish swish, and ice blades rushed out one after another. The demons who were originally gathering great magic were quickly transformed into ice sculptures when they were hit by the ice blades, and then they exploded with a snap. Even the commander level sea monsters only lasted for 2 or 3 seconds before they turned into ice crystal fragments. All the way down, the sea was full of fluorescent stars. Humans are indeed not as good as demons, but demons are perfectly superior to all living things. The octopus monarch was also terrified when he saw such a terrifying thing. He immediately sucked a wave of seawater and then erupted in one breath. Even in the water, this huge wave of water column still had no resistance and rushed straight to Tang Mao's ice blade. Bang! After the water column and the ice blade collided, the middle layer of the sea suddenly turned into an ice layer. Interesting. Tang Mao's voice was a little rough. After muttering, 6 wings suddenly appeared behind him. The wind wings waved in the sea without any resistance. He was like a meteor, bang, breaking through the ice layer. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the octopus monarch. Giant thunder claw. With a pair of tiger claws open, Tang Mao rushed directly to the big head of the octopus monarch and tore it in half in one breath. Even if it was a monarch level creature, there was still no resistance in front of him. The remaining sea monsters nearby saw the octopus monarch being torn apart in an instant, and they only felt trembling all over. Who knew that this land monster was so powerful in the sea? Exclamation mark. In fact, Tang Mao himself was quite surprised, although he knew that after the demonization, the monarch could step on it at will. But I didn't expect it to be so casual. With just one thunder claw, he killed a monarch. Although he was shocked by his own strength, there were still so many sea monsters to deal with nearby. He didn't hesitate and went into the sea monster group. The claws sometimes appeared thunder, sometimes emitted silver light, and sometimes black air. However, no matter what kind of magic was covered, the monsters he faced were easily dealt with just one claw. After killing for half an hour, there seemed to be only hundreds of sea monsters, but he felt like he had killed thousands. Moreover, it seemed that the number had not decreased. That is, the number of spirits and residual souls harvested here was relatively large, so he didn't have to worry about his lack of strength. After so long, even a fool could find something wrong, let alone Tang Mao. He didn't continue to waste time here and rushed towards the direction where the sea monster appeared. Some of the sirens didn't notice anything, while others turned to ashes the moment they noticed. After flying for 10 minutes, the number of sirens became more and more dense. Moreover, there were 3 more of the octopus monarchs that had just been torn apart by him. Exclamation mark. When Tang Mao noticed the other party, the octopus monarchs also noticed his presence. After a burst of strange screams, the 3 octopus monarchs sprayed huge waves at the same time, as if to rush Tang Mao away from here. Ice crystal prison. Layers of ice walls appeared in front of him, and the moment the huge wave of water column hit him, it instantly froze into icicles. While watching the 3 icicles freeze along the water column, the thunder power of his left claw continued to gather, and then he clenched his claws and punched the ice layer. Boom. Pa. The moment the thunder passed through, the icicles instantly shattered, and the lightning was divided into 3 streams and rushed towards the 3 octopus monarchs respectively. This full strength attack, and the thunder in the form of a demon, was completely powerful and belonged to the forbidden magic. That is, the so-called forbidden spell. Boom boom. The moment the thunder exploded on the 3 octopus monarchs, the seawater below seemed to be squeezed out, boiling and erupting straight up. The originally calm sea surface suddenly exploded. For a moment, it seemed as if it was going to split the entire seawater. The waves quickly formed a tsunami and fell in all directions. Fortunately, it was in the center. If it was near the dam, this wave of tsunami would be enough to destroy the entire dam. On the dam in the distance, General Wang and Len King were looking at this scene nervously, and both of them were sweating. Especially Len King. He was really worried about Tang Mao's reckless behavior. After all, the power of the sea monster monarch in the sea is many times stronger than on land. Although Tang Mao was also very shocking after the demonization, in the case of countless sea monsters, this behavior was not rational. Just when she was worried, the water level in the place where that tsunami had just been set off and then spread out suddenly rose straight up. The speed of the rise was extremely fast, and the area was also quite large. Just when everyone thought that the sea level was rising, a huge sound of flowing water came out. As the water on the huge object continued to flow down, the people on the dam could see clearly that the thing that emerged was not a rising sea level at all, but a huge monster. What kind of monster this is, no one knows, but the size of the other party is not comparable even to the Bezier. Moreover, its tentacles are more than those of the octopus monarch, and they are quite thick. In terms of momentum, every monarch present cannot compare with it. Chapter 448, A Tsunami Destroys Dam. After it emerged in its own form, a strange cry was heard, and the waves suddenly rioted. Moreover, the huge waves rushed straight to the dam and submerged it. On the waves, there were dense sea monsters, stepping on the waves, and rushing over with their fangs and claws. General Wang hurriedly shouted, "Quickly destroy them, and never let them break through the dam." Just as he gave an order, the military mages on the dam were about to take action, and the seawater in front of his face also exploded with a boom, and then a demon with 3 souls and 6 wings appeared behind him. Then, all the bombardment of the military mages was absorbed by Tang Mao, who suddenly appeared with the help of the magic weapon emoting. The Zenbei army was dumbfounded when they saw this. It was not surprising that this demon could resist the magic of one of them. However, they were bombarded by a whole army, and there were high-level mages to help, and the other party actually absorbed all of them. Moreover, the other party seemed to have not suffered any damage at all. Question mark? Just when everyone was shocked, and General Wang was dumbfounded, after absorbing all kinds of elemental magic power from the Zenbei army, all of them were converted into thunder and lightning and condensed in his hands. Boom boom, the tiger claws were raised high, and in an instant, a huge thunderball emerged. The destructive power of the thunderball almost caused the nearby earth to vibrate inexplicably, and the seawater continued to roll. Moreover, this thunderball continued to increase and grow, until it was as big as the head of the big monster that appeared in the distance, and it was thrown out by Tang Mao, who could not support it. The moment the thunderball was thrown out, the entire sea area seemed to have formed a minefield. The war general level monsters turned into ashes in an instant, and the commander level monsters did not even have a chance to struggle. Even Bezier hurriedly left the sea and fled from here. Boom. Originally, tens of thousands of sea monsters came on the waves, but in the thunder and lightning area, they were as if they had never appeared. As for the huge monster that appeared, it was directly bombed head on. At the moment of the huge explosion, the dark clouds in the sky seemed to be connected to a power source, continuously dropping thunder. Boom. When the third thunder fell, even a huge one, like it was instantly broken into pieces and scattered all over the sea. Although Tang Mao had solved the strongest guy, he also lost the ability to resist. Even if there was no sea monster on the waves, with the help of the energy wave, the impact was not something he could withstand. The most important thing was that in the sea area behind the thunder, the waves rolled from time to time, and finally formed a tsunami, and then rushed straight to the dam. Tsunamis came one after another, and after 2 impacts, they easily destroyed the safety barrier of the dam. Fortunately, General Wang ordered a retreat when Tang Mao absorbed the attacks of the military mages, otherwise the impact of the tsunami would be enough to kill the entire Zenbei army. But even if they were fast enough, many military mages were still knocked unconscious by the huge impact of the seawater. There were nearly 1,000 casualties in the rush. When the waves destroyed the dam and flooded the Pudong area, it took an hour before it was calm. And because of this, the surviving sea monsters have evacuated here one after another. Obviously, the torn corpse on the sea surface was the commander-in-chief of the attack on the Magic City sea monsters this time. The old general looked at the Pudong district, which was originally land, and now it has become a vast ocean. He was extremely angry. If he knew what would happen today, he would support the speaker no matter what. If there were enough troops to defend the coastline at the beginning, how could such serious damage be caused? Of course, he was actually thankful. Fortunately, Tang Mao appeared. Otherwise, the Magic City would suffer heavy losses this time. especially the last wave of huge waves and the tens of thousands of sea monsters. Once they hit, the magic city would lose this area. I'm afraid that half of the area would be divided into the ocean territory. Puff. Just as he was in a daze, the sea suddenly exploded again, and then the wounded Bezier carried Tangmao to Lenking on the beach. It was not injured originally. After all, it had always been entangled. Unexpectedly, in the last wave of bombing by Tangmao, it was wounded all over. Of course, the main reason why Bezier was injured was because of the last wave impact. However, if it was not injured, Tangmao, who had dispersed the demonic power, would have been dead. This kid is really strong. Looking at Tangmao dragged by Bezier, the old general came over to check carefully and found that he was just fainted from exhaustion and couldn't help but sighed. With such an impact just now, in his opinion, Tangmao should have been in danger, but he didn't expect that this kid didn't die. Question mark? Lenking also breathed a sigh of relief and then frowned and said, "What level of existence is the last one to appear?" The old general shook his head and continued, "It may be a terrifying existence equivalent to the level of a human forbidden spellmaster. The entire sea surface can be moved at will, plus their huge size. It is obviously not just a simple existence of the monarch." And because of this, the old general was very fortunate for Tangmao, the god-sent soldier from heaven. The appearance of monarch was enough to cause them heavy losses. However, there were 4 of them. Moreover, the last one to emerge and be blasted to pieces was even the top monarch, and his strength level even surpassed that of Zuanshan Baksha. If Tangmao had not become even more powerful after being demonized, it would be hard to imagine how many people would have died here. Lenking said with some concern, "I don't know what happened in other places. After all, not all coastlines have people as perverted as Tangmao." The old general also fought hard for a day and a night, and there was no stock left in his body. However, he did not choose to leave here. After the Demon City sea monster retreated, he asked Lenking to take Tangmao to heal his wounds. Then he immediately organized a new defense. Although the dam in the front was destroyed and Pudong was flooded, there was still room for recovery. It was natural to step up defense now, otherwise, once the sea monster attacked again, it would not be so easy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 449, Rushing to Beacon. After leaving the beach, just when Lenking was about to take Tangmao to the hospital for treatment, Tangmao, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. However, his pupils were still dark red, as if the power of the devil had not completely dissipated. Seeing Tangmao suddenly open his eyes, Lenking was slightly stunned, and then asked stupidly, "Tangmao, are you okay? There are 2 more powerful auras over there." He could clearly feel that there were 2 auras above the monarch and Beacon that were colliding with each other. This was the strongest energy he had felt so far, and it seemed that because of this, he, who was originally covered in scars, suddenly turned over and jumped up. Then, the space fluctuated and twisted, and the next moment, Tangmao suddenly disappeared in front of Lenking. When Lenking looked back from where Tangmao pointed, he had already disappeared. Lenking was silent for a moment and didn't know what to say for a while. After all, didn't this scum want to protect her? Now he just walked away like this? Moreover, he looked like he was about to die just now. How come he seemed to be fine in the blink of an eye? Moreover, Tangmao had just recovered his human form, but he suddenly turned into a demon. Although she wanted to know why, unfortunately no one gave her an answer. What made her most helpless was that Tangmao left without letting her go, and she was taken back to Yuxu town by Bezier. On the other side, the reason why Tangmao suddenly woke up was that he sensed the breath of the emperor. This was a genuine exchange, 2 real emperors. At least, the big octopus that was reassembled from the 3 octopuses that were smashed to pieces by him before. Even if it surpassed the monarch's breath, it was not at the same level as the breath he felt now. The power of the devil is inherently violent and war-loving. Therefore, when he found that the two forces were more powerful than he could imagine, the boiling demon blood actually made all his injuries healed instantly. Tang Mao, who had recovered his strength, was also blessed by the demonization, and he was also on par with the Emperor. Once they reach the realm of the Emperor, the theory of magic is useless to them. The Emperor and the Forbidden Spell Master are two different beings. The demons of the Emperor level can enter any land at will. It can even be said to rush into other planes. However, Tang Mao is not sure whether this is the case. After crossing the space, the place where he appears now is above the clouds. In the thick clouds, there is a vortex that swallows the earth. The vortex seems to be a world of nothingness and chaos. There are two figures. They are the ancient king and the pharaoh. They stand on both sides of the chaotic vortex. The two beams of light collide fiercely, and the energy like sparks scatters wildly. The sudden appearance of Tang Mao forced the two underworld emperors to stop and continue to rub. Tang Mao also stepped into this strange vortex. He actually didn't know how he got here. However, these are not important. The important thing is that the little emperor of a tiny country dared to set foot on the land of China to show off his power. It's damn it. Looking at Tang Mao, the ancient king, Zhang Kong, was surprised. Even though his current posture was demonic, he still recognized his identity at a glance. You know, a year ago, in his eyes, this boy was just an ant that could be crushed at will. But, after just 1 year, the other party was strong enough to stand in the space opened up by the emperor. How could he not be shocked? Boy, are you a human or a demon? The ancient king looked at Tang Mao and asked in a calm voice. Are you Zhang Kong or Aang Zeng? Tang Mao asked instead of answering. In fact, this is something he has always been curious about. Is this bastard the master of Zhang Kong or Aang Zeng? You know, he is Aang Zeng, but when Mo Fan went to ask for help, when Zhang Xiaohao went to ask for help, he was indifferent. Moreover, when he went to the holy city to die, he was obviously like a mighty emperor, but in the end, he was thinking of Zhang Kong. It's really outrageous. The ancient king was a little angry when he heard this, and his violent breath rushed straight to Tang Mao. But Tang Mao was indifferent. It must be said that the power of the ancient king made him feel a little disappointed. Is this the power of the emperor of all ages? It seems a little weak. It is not as earth-shattering as imagined. Of course, for the mages under the forbidden spell, it is another feeling. Looking at the indifferent Tang Mao, the ancient king paused for a moment before saying, I have only awakened a remnant soul, and the Zhang Kong you mentioned is just a puppet with some memories left. Is it really just like that? Although Tang Mao was a little surprised, he didn't think so about the puppet he mentioned. If it was really just a puppet, then why would he, Aang Zeng, be willing to die? Even if it was just a remnant soul, wouldn't it be sweet to be alive? How dare you? Aang Zeng shouted loudly, making Tang Mao and Qifu feel deafened. Then he said, if it were in my era, you would be dead at this time. As he said that, the ancient king suddenly flashed and attacked Tang Mao. He actually admired the first emperor who once made China the largest country in the world. However, admiration is history, and there is not much, or for a remnant soul. At the moment, when he slapped him, Tang Mao raised his tiger claws and grabbed it directly. Boom. The power of just this blow caused the entire vortex to shake extremely strongly. As for the undead fighting below, tens of thousands of them were affected and turned into nothingness. Among them were the subordinates of the Egyptian pharaoh and naturally the subordinates of the ancient king. You also said that it was when you were alive. But now, this is no longer your world, and you are no longer the king here. Why do you still think that my life and death are in your hands? Tang Mao now has enough strength to protect himself. After the fusion of this new blood, although the demon system has a slight feeling of being out of control, but the power obtained is even more terrifying. The most important thing is that the previous opponent was too weak. He didn't even know how much he weighed. However, after taking the blow from the ancient king, he was sure that his strength had greatly increased. It was just that he had not yet had time to bring it into play. Chapter 450, Battle with the Emperor, Super Big ##. Give monthly tickets and subscribe to get started. The ancient king looked at Tang Mao who had taken his blow and was secretly surprised for a moment. Although he was just a remnant soul, he was able to exert half of his strength with his armor. Although his previous blow was not a full strength blow, it was still quite easy to kill a few monarchs. But with such an output, this kid barely took it? Question mark? For a moment, the ancient king felt as if their era was really over. After Tang Mao took the blow, he quickly dodged and retreated a little. He was not afraid, but the power of the devil was constantly erupting, and the blood in his body was also restless. It was obvious that he enjoyed this kind of battle. Exclamation mark. Boy, your strength is good. Why don't you serve me? The pharaoh looked at the retreating Tang Mao, thinking that he was no match for the ancient king, and there might be a grudge between them. So, he wanted to win him over. Although he was not dead, so what? Now is the time to worry about this. As long as he killed the ancient king in front of him, he would be the real master of the underworld. What Khufu said, neither Tang Mao nor Guleo Wang were moved. The two looked at each other, as if Khufu was not worthy of their attention at all. After a moment of silence, Guleo Wang spoke first. But the Zinkang you mentioned still has some memories that have merged with me. Such people are really rare. Tang Mao paused. He really didn't expect that this would be the case. But why was this fool willing to sacrifice himself when he was in the holy city? Of course, according to what he said, he was still sleeping. The loss of that remnant soul might not be a big deal to him. As if he had noticed the doubts in Tang Mao's heart, Guleo Wang suddenly said, you want to ask, when that woman appeared, why was this body not dominated by me? He didn't want to ask this, but since Guleo Wang said so, it's not impossible for him to ask, so he nodded. You know, being able to chat with him is an opportunity that he got after taking a blow from the other party. If he was still the same as before, he really wouldn't have such an opportunity. Maybe that's the power of love. He would rather be devoured by me than see that woman. The ancient king said with a little disdain. After all, in their era, women had no status to speak of. Khufu watched the two of them chatting, as if no one else was around. The most important thing is that he was ignored. For a moment, he was furious. You are looking for death. Khufu roared, and then whoosh, he appeared next to Tang Mao and the ancient king, and his palms were filled with thick black rot, hitting them respectively. Tang Mao turned around with bloodshot eyes, full of fighting spirit, and suddenly exerted force with his claws to take Khufu's furious palm. The ancient king was a little relaxed, and he hit him casually. Bang! After a loud bang, the whole sky suddenly appeared with shocking cracks, and the vortex they were in began to split continuously. Obviously, this small vortex could not withstand the power of the three emperors. After the palm was over, Tang Mao took the lead in counterattacking. Although he may not be as strong as Khufu, it is not easy to defeat him. As Tang Mao and Khufu collided at the speed of light, the ancient king suddenly retreated a little. As the true emperor of the underworld, he can defeat Khufu by himself. In this case, the ancient king disdains to join forces with Tang Mao. The two beams of light collided fiercely, and the energy like sparks scattered wildly at an increasingly faster speed, and the destructive power was also increasing. Their collision and fighting seemed to have exceeded the feeling of magic. Of course, the lightning on Tang Mao's tiger claws never dissipated from beginning to end. Every time the claws tore down, Khufu felt sore all over. When the occasional lightning was shaken to the ground, it was the ultimate destruction, and a mountain range would be turned into charcoal in an instant. As for the undead above, it was the same. Then that wouldn't be my boss. Mo Fan, who successfully took down Leng Ju, returned here and looked at the battlefield in the sky, feeling stunned. He couldn't see the battle clearly, but before, the figure that made him feel afraid and wanted to worship had the souls of Yanji and Zunu in their mature stages, so he said it uncertainly. That kid, like you, also has that strange power. The Queen of Nine Nether looked at Tang Mao, who was fighting against Khufu in the sky, and asked with some surprise. Well, Mo Fan, now that he has become a demon, can fight against the monarch. Although the backlash is terrible, with the help of a tonic like the undead, even if the sequelae are very strong and terrible, he can still accept it. But, after he became a demon, he could only compete with the monarch level. Even if he encountered the supreme monarchs like the mountain corpse, even he could only be on paragraph. When Q4 appeared, he clearly felt the sense of oppression. Now, Tang Mao, who appeared at some unknown time and place, is fighting against Q4? Question mark? The Queen of Nine Netherworld paused for a moment before saying, "Your boss is pretty good, and it seems that he has been recognized by our king." "Why do you say that?" Fan asked, looking at the Queen of Nine Netherworld in confusion. "If it weren't for that, the king wouldn't be standing by to watch the battle." The Queen of Nine Netherworld shook her head, and then said to the ancient king with mysterious confidence, "Otherwise, the two of them would never have had the chance to fight like this, and that kid wouldn't have had the chance to get involved in the war with the emperor." Boom. At this moment, a ray of destructive lightning suddenly fell from the sky, and the place where it fell was exactly where Fan, the Queen of Nine Netherworld, and a group of ancient city and Ed were. Fuck. Seeing this, Fan shouted directly and subconsciously wanted to pull the Queen of Nine Netherworld away. However, the Queen of Nine Netherworld was not moved at all. And just as the lightning fell in the air, the figure of the ancient king suddenly appeared above them. In front of him, a chaotic vortex emerged. The thunder that could destroy the entire mountain range was absorbed in an instant. Fan was relieved and looked at Jiuai and asked, "Sister, why didn't you run? We were all dead after that thunder just now." Jiuai covered her mouth and laughed, looking at Fan and said, "Do you think we can leave this entire mountain range in that instant even if we run?" Fan's mouth twitched slightly, but thinking about it carefully, it was true. With their speed, there was no possibility of running away. No wonder the female corpse was so calm. Damn, it's a close call to watch the big guys fight. The risk is really great. As he spoke, Fan, who looked up at the sky, suddenly closed his mouth. "This is really terrifying. I saw that the battlefield vortex that had been opened up in the sky before had completely dissipated. And above the entire sky, strange cracks appeared from time to time, as if they were bearing the power that they shouldn't bear. This kind of scene can be said to be rare in a century. But even if the vortex is about to dissipate, the battle between Tang Mao and the pharaoh is still going on. At this time, Tang Mao's tiger claws are no longer just the power of the thunder element. Even at some point, the tiger claws have actually appeared fire and ice element, and the wind wings behind are also stained with ice and flames. Every time he attacks, the element around him seem to be swallowed up. The magic of the forbidden spell Mage and the forbidden magic cannot be released casually, because every time they attack, they will cause extremely terrifying destruction in an area. And now his attack is just like that. But who cares about these now? Tang Mao is getting braver and braver. With the help of Yanji and Zunu, two girls who work together, he has mastered the ultimate power of the three element almost at the same time. Although Khufu is also a veteran emperor, he was afraid of the ancient king's attack at the beginning, so he did not output at full strength at the beginning of the battle with Tang Mao. But because of this, he became a training object. Khufu had also reacted, but at the moment, he couldn't kill Tang Mao. He couldn't even defeat him. The power of this thing has been increasing, especially the control of these three element, which is almost handy in his hands. Almost in the battle, Tang Mao's power has reached the feeling of being comparable to him. Boom. Another burst of lightning that was obviously hot, but extremely cold exploded in front of him, and then rain of fire and hail fell from the sky. At the moment of falling, it seemed to be related to the impact force. Wherever it fell, no grass grew. Even, many of these scattered attacks fell on the top of Khufu's pyramid. The pyramid, which was already dim due to the attack of the undead army, now felt like it was going to be extinguished. As for the wicked sword dead pools near the pyramid, they almost died if they touched them. Although the dark sword masters blocked some of them, more of them were on their bodies, causing terrible damage. Seeing that his beloved pyramid was bombed, Khufu almost jumped up and down and shouted angrily, "You are looking for death. The key to an immortal being's longevity is the mausoleum. If he continues to fight, he may have a chance to severely injure Tang Mao, but it is not easy to kill him. After all, there is an ancient king standing there with a covetous look." Tang Mao panted slightly and experienced a wave of battles. Although he enjoyed the feeling of this fierce battle, even the devil's momentum was a little bit overwhelmed at this moment. Rubbish. However, although he lost his momentum, he was not idle. After glancing at Khufu with disdain, Tang Mao continued, "How dare a small bastard from a tiny country come to my Chinese land to show off his power." As he said that, Tang Mao stepped back a little, came to the side of the ancient king, and then said, "This one is the real king of the underworld. If you don't agree, come and try." At the moment, he was really about to dry up, although there were many spirits in the Killing Jade. Even now, they have been transformed into the general level, and there are not a few of them who are at the commander level. After replenishing the power of the demon, although he can fight again, after this battle, he knows that he is not Khufu's opponent at the moment. In this case, wouldn't it be better for him to keep these spirits, to strengthen his own stars? Moreover, doesn't the ancient king like to be respected by himself? He actually wants to be the speaker, so naturally he has to do something, right? Facing Tang Mao's appearance, the ancient king snorted coldly, disdainfully said, "Where is your courage just now? Ahem. I think the matter of the dead should be solved by the king of the underworld like you. After all, as he said, the underworld does not allow two kings. I think according to your temper, you don't allow it, right? At this time, you can flatter as much as you want. Anyway, as long as you don't have to do it yourself, everything is easy to say." Although the ancient king disliked Tang Mao's spineless appearance, he turned his head and looked at Khufu. The ancient king had lost interest in invasion and unification. It had been thousands of years since he was resurrected from the mausoleum. His ambition to rule everything had also become silent along with his body of the living dead. The world of the living no longer belonged to him. So at the moment, when he could retake his capital, he chose to turn around and chose to be alone underground. However, this time when he rushed to the northern plains and looked at the creatures born on the battlefield, even if his body was dead, his soul was immortal. When the sounds of fighting, shouting, and drums sounded, the excitement of the war in his heart would still be startled. Regardless of whether Tang Mao had backbone and blood, there was one thing he was not wrong about. That is, there could only be one king in the underworld. Although, for the ancient king, when he was alive, he was already an unparalleled emperor in the world. His magic attainments were so powerful that he was lonely. He personally created the law of the dead. The strongest defense of the Earth system was created by him, and the strongest totem was sleeping in his territory. What else needs to be conquered? No, the whole huge world has no attraction to him. But the fact that there is only one king in the underworld really interests him. The underworld only needs one king, so do you choose to fight with this king, or go away? The ancient king's voice was very calm, but full of disdain. To be honest, if all his souls were awakened, Khufu would be nothing in front of his powerful strength. The ancient king was the greatest when he was alive, and he would only become more powerful in the 1,000 years after his death. The reason why he didn't choose to continue to attack here was not because he couldn't kill Khufu, but because he didn't want to destroy his own country. After all, this was created by him. Of course, although he didn't mean to take action now, the ancient king didn't mean to let Khufu go. He was still very interested in Khufu's corpse preservation technique. He didn't like his face with the staggered lines of the living dead. He needed his face to be full of the same vitality as before he was alive. Khufu's vitality was what the armored emperor was most interested in. Khufu looked at the ancient king with a victorious attitude, and he really wanted to compete with him. Although the result may not be ideal, if he fights hard, he will not look inferior to the old king. But he had a hard fight with Tang Mao, and he was no longer in the best condition. So, Khufu hesitated for a moment and turned around. However, with the idea of losing the battle, Khufu said in a faint voice, "I'm very glad that there is still an old monster like me. The mysterious East really made my trip worthwhile. So, you still choose to roll?" The old king was only contemptuous of Khufu, who turned around. That's right, this kind of weakling who finds excuses to escape is really despised by him. He is not even worthy of being called his opponent. Khufu naturally felt the disdain of the old king, but he decided to endure it first, and then said, "War is never in a hurry. This fertile land, this land full of heroic spirits will eventually belong to me, Khufu." After leaving this, Khufu called the golden ancient boat and chose to return to the pyramid. From beginning to end, the old king was a winner, but he did not continue to attack. Seeing Khufu retreating like this, Tang Mao wondered, since you also said that the underworld should only have one emperor, why don't you kill him? He was very puzzled. He had already consumed Khufu for a long time. Why is this guy just watching the battle? Wouldn't it be better to kill it for Khufu now? The ancient king did not respond at all. He turned around and disappeared in the air, appearing on the body of the mountain corpse on the ground. Tang Mao was unhappy with the ancient king who didn't know how to respect himself at all. Although he was indeed stronger, he was no longer an ant that he could easily pinch. It was too much. Then Tang Mao also left the sky and walked towards the mountain corpse. With the moment he left, the vortex that had originally emerged also dissipated in an instant, as if it had never appeared, but the dark clouds still covered the entire sky. The mountain corpse looked at Tang Mao, who suddenly appeared in front of him. It must be said that he was a little scared at this time. After all, he had suffered from Tang Mao before, and now the other party was able to compete with his master. He was really depressed. "You want to block my way?" the ancient king said in a light voice as he looked at Tang Mao, who appeared. Although he had no intention of leaving, Tang Mao's appearance on their way back always gave him a sense of provocation. "No, I just want to know why you didn't take action to deal with him. Why should I explain to you what I do?" the ancient king responded coldly. Tang Mao was unhappy. In other words, he knew that he couldn't beat this thing. The damn chaos magic almost devoured all his destructive power. Otherwise, he had to let this arrogant emperor of the ages feel some of the terrifying destructive power from the devil. People ignored him, so he could only leave here and fly to the battlefield. You know, the fluorescent star points here are almost all dispersed. After this battle, he can at least strengthen the stars of the two systems to the level of level 5. Even the elementary and intermediate magic can be strengthened to the intermediate level of level 6. The ancient king looked at Tang Mao, who was chasing him, a little puzzled. He didn't think Tang Mao was rushing over to fight Khufu to the death. After all, if he really had this blood, he wouldn't have stopped and hid behind him. When he saw the broken and spirit being absorbed, he finally understood everything. While Tang Mao was collecting the spoils, Mo Fan, who came from a distance, also successfully received a great task, which was to go to the Egyptian pyramids and open a door to the Egyptian Dead Land, where the ancient king could lead the army of the underworld to attack. Mo Fan refused this. After all, not to mention that he couldn't be demonized. Just imagining it felt like an extremely dangerous task. But how could he refuse to accept the order of the ancient king if he wanted to? In the end, he agreed. There was no way the ancient capital couldn't afford a second catastrophe, although it might not happen. But if you kill with blood in your eyes, no one can be sure what will happen. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.